Chapter 41. At this time, just as everyone was scrambling to find Zhang Feng, a voice rang out. Zhang Feng was bored out of his mind. He sat in the shop and wondered if he should do something in the future. Now, the Tang Dynasty had just entered the beginning of the Jingguan rule, and this year was also the most critical year. If this year the Tang Dynasty could solve the drought and the locust plague in a short time, then the Tang Dynasty was destined to enter the stage of skyrocketing. The reason why he told Lao Li about the locust plague and the surrounding situation was that, on the one hand, he was too damn lonely. He could brag to someone he liked. More importantly, as he said before, if he could attract Li Shimin's attention when the time came, his system would be activated, and it would really be like adding wings to a tiger. However, after his observation in the past few days, it seemed. Except that after that night, this matter slowly seemed to be suppressed. He thought about it. Zhang Feng also felt relieved. After all, Lao Li's strength was limited. Although he didn't know how his family business was, it was certainly not comparable to the government in Chang'an City. People nowadays paid attention to borrowing ancient books, combining the methods recorded in ancient books to deal with the drought and locust plague. His method was a modern thing. How could there be such a thing in history? Even if there was, it was after the middle of the Tang Dynasty. Alas, there is still a long way to go. At the thought of this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but sigh. This damn system, if it weren't for this system he would have soared to the top by now. With the help of this locust plague and Li Shimin's unprecedented announcement to the world today, he really got rid of the gap between him and Wei Zheng. This made Zhang Feng a little confused about Lao Li. You could say that he was a businessman. But this guy was always on the verge of death, constantly testing and rubbing against each other. He always asked about things that would cost him his life. Now this matter was brought to the top again? Zhang Feng was a little doubtful. But he wasn't sure if Li Shimin had figured it out himself. After all, beside Li Shimin, in addition to Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui, there was also Wei Zheng, the three major strategists, the think tank. Behind him, there was also Empress Zhang Sun, who left a strong mark in the history books. Although this person was a woman and was usually very kind, she was a woman. But who would have thought that most of Li Shimin's decisions were the result of discussions with Empress Zhang Sun at night? Li Shimin was able to understand and put Wei Zheng in an important position. Zhang Feng didn't have anything to do with Lao Li at all. In his eyes, these two people were the kind of existence where one was in the sky and the other was in the water. Even if these two people were standing hand in front of Zhang Feng, he would feel that either he was drunk or these two were drunk. Otherwise, how could this be possible? Zhang Feng shook his head and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Then his thoughts once again focused on the system. He was very curious. This thing, after it was activated, what kind of system would it be? Would it be the kind of chivalrous system? Or the kind that would beat up the whole world the moment it was activated? Or the richest person? Sigh. Damn system. Zhang Feng sighed speechlessly. Then he turned around and lay down on the recliner under the counter, snoring loudly. On the other side, in the imperial study of Taiji Palace, Li Shimin was flipping through the memorials one by one. He was dealing with the documents one by one. During this period, the drought in Longyu Road was really serious, just as Zhang Feng said. In fact, there was a shortage of water in many places. The entire Longyu Road had sent at least 110,000 soldiers to fight the drought. However, the results were not very good. Not only that, but the locust eggs in the ground had also increased for some reason. Li Shimin couldn't help but think of Zhang Feng again. Your Majesty, urgent report. At this moment, a secret agent rushed into the imperial study and handed a small bamboo joint to Li Shimin. Li Shimin was shocked. What's the matter? At the border of Longyu Road, a large number of Tuyuhun refugees have crossed Qilian Mountain and appeared in the territory of the Tang Dynasty. It seems that the disaster in Tuyuhun has become serious. Reporting. At this moment, another report was heard once again. Li Shimin waved his hand. Your Majesty. In the direction of Tubo, a large number of people wearing tattered clothes like skeletons are attacking our border guards. What? Li Shimin was shocked. It had changed. Could it be that what Zhang Feng said was true? That the disaster in Tubo and Tuyuhun was so serious that it had gone out of control? At this thought, Li Shimin hurriedly asked, Then, is there anything unusual in the direction of the Tujue? The direction of the Tujue is not clear for now. However, 5 days ago the number of soldiers guarding the border increased inexplicably, especially in the direction of Yuzhou. There is a small-scale riot. What? Li Shimin was shocked. Could it be that the disaster in the neighboring countries had really broken out? If so, Li Shimin's expression turned serious. He hurriedly said, "Summon Zhang Sun Wuji, Qing Yaojin, Li Jing, and the others to come to the palace immediately." Chapter 42. For 7 days in a row, Li Shimin had been dealing with the border issues as well as the Turks and Tubo Tuyuhan. It seemed that these issues had nothing to do with the Tang dynasty at this time. But what was the actual situation? Who knew? If the drought really broke out to the point of no return, then the industries of the Tang dynasty would definitely be affected. This was not a locust plague. What if the locust plague broke out again? Then the consequences? Second brother, are you worried about the border issues again? Darkness. It gradually enveloped the imperial study. At this moment, Empress Jiangsun held an oil lamp and gently appeared behind Li Shimin. Second brother? Empress Jiangsun lit the oil lamp in the study and looked at the depressed Li Shimin with a worried face. Li Shimin shook his head slightly, then turned around and grabbed Empress Jiangsun's small hand. Maid Guanyin, I know, but I feel that second brother should take things slowly. Although brother Zhang Feng is right, he may have exaggerated. Think about it, Tubo and Tuyuhan must be thinking about how to cover up this matter. After all, this is not a glorious matter, and maybe Tuyuhan and the Turks are also dealing with this matter. Li Shimin's eyes flashed. So, Maid Guanyin, you mean to wait and see? Empress Jiangsun pulled Li Shimin to sit on the dragon throne, then gently massaged his shoulders and said, "That's right. By the way, have you tried brother Zhang's method? Is it effective?" "It is effective, but you also know that it is not easy to spread this matter. So, I did not tell anyone about this matter. This matter is only tested on a small scale. To be honest, I really hope that this locust plague is a joke. And Maid Guanyin, do you know? At that time, I almost announced that I would take action according to the shopkeeper's method, but you also know that if outsiders know about this, the consequences will be unimaginable." Li Shimin sighed. He knew about the locust plague in Longyu Circuit. He also knew that there were hundreds of thousands of chickens and ducks in Longyu Circuit dealing with the locust plague. However, he had really underestimated this drought. Basically, at least 100 chickens and ducks were lost every day. He also knew that he only needed to issue an imperial edict to resolve this matter. But he couldn't. He was the emperor. Behind him were the people of the entire Tang dynasty. If he really did that, then the drought in the Tang dynasty could no longer be concealed. Not only that, the plague of locusts would also surface. At that time, what would happen? He didn't want to see that kind of ending. They didn't want to see the Tang dynasty either. He had no time. The Tang dynasty didn't have the time either. He only needed 1 year. The Tang dynasty only needed a year to reorganize itself. In the imperial study, it was quiet again. Li Shimin lowered his head in deep thought, and so did Empress Jiangsun. Outside the imperial study, night had already shrouded the entire Chang'an city. However, all the offices in Chang'an city were still brightly lit. The secretaries of the 3 provinces and 6 ministries were working overtime to deal with all kinds of matters at this time. In the secretaries of the department, Wei Zheng was so busy that his beard and hair were almost sticking together. In front of him, stacks of thick books were casually thrown on the ground. Longyu Circuit documents? Present them. Longyu Circuit urgently needs 100,000 dawn of grain. Longyu Circuit sent an urgent document. A large number of deep wells in Shazhou, Ganzhou, and other places have no water. Urgent request. Looking at the urgent documents, everyone was aghast. Wei Zheng was also shocked. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone put down all the things that you can put down. We must deal with all the matters of Longyu Circuit by tonight." As he spoke, Wei Zheng hurried out. "I'll go to the emperor to make a decision on this matter." On the other side, the people of the 3 provinces and 6 ministries, including the Minister of Shangshu, the Secretariat, the Ministry of Minxia, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Works, were all facing the same problem. Zhang Sun Wuji and the others were also shocked at this time. Carrying many urgent documents, he rushed to the Taiji Palace. This matter was too big. If it was not handled properly, the consequences would be extremely serious. If the matter was not handled properly, then the drought of the Tang dynasty would be known by outsiders, then everything would be over. Outside Taiji Palace, everyone met again. But this time no one said anything. Everyone's faces were full of fatigue. Even their eyes were bloodshot. At this time, although no one said anything, the fact that they were here at this time meant that they had encountered the same problem. Everyone followed the eunuch's guidance and hurried to the door of the imperial study. Wei Zheng, Zhang Sun Wuji, Qing Yaojin, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui request an audience with His Majesty. Urgent report from Longyu Circuit. Urgent report from the border of Tubo. There seems to be a riot in Tuyuhan. As everyone reported. In the imperial study, after a moment of silence, Li Shimin's weary voice sounded. Chapter 43. Greetings, Your Majesty. Your Majesty. They entered the imperial study. Everyone looked solemn. But when they saw Empress Zhang Sun, they quickly saluted. Although they were very casual in the imperial study, they had to be well behaved in the presence of the Empress. Empress Zhang Sun waved her hand lightly and motioned for everyone to get up. Your Majesty, I'll take my leave. Empress Zhang Sun hurriedly left as she spoke. Then everyone hurriedly told Li Shimin all the news they had received earlier. Li Shimin's head was about to explode. But at this moment, he had to force himself to stay alert. What do you think we should do about this? Should we send troops or wait and see? Wei Zheng, tell me your opinion. Wei Zheng heard this, pondered for a moment and said, Your Majesty, I think the best way now is to deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. Now our first thing is to solve the problem of water shortage in Longyu Road. As for the Tubo and Tuyuhan matter, it's an outsider's business and has nothing to do with us. It's best if they're all dead. Now the nearest water source to Longyu Road is on Mount Qilian, but it's too far away so I don't know how to cut it off. Li Shimin was shocked. The water in the entire Longyu Road was gone, then, are there any other water sources? Your Majesty, the other water sources are almost dry. At this time, only Qilian Lake under Mount Qilian has water. Wei Jing said quickly, even the main water sources in Liangzhou, Shazhou, and Ganzhou are almost dry. Li Shimin was shocked. Almost dry. Except for Mount Qilian. How to solve this? Do you have any ideas? Also, what's going on at the border? Is there really no other way? Li Shimin was shocked. He finally understood what Zhang Feng meant when he said that the drought would never be as simple as he imagined it to be. This thing was accompanied by a lack of water. The direct result of a lack of water was drought. An endless drought. Is there a solution? Li Shimin could no longer sit still. For the time being, there's no need to pay too much attention to the matter at the border. They're already too busy taking care of themselves. It's impossible for them to improve their situation in a short period of time. As for Longyu Dao, Your Majesty, the only way to solve this drought is to dig a canal from Mount Qilian. Li Shimin's eyes lit up. How long will it take to resolve this matter? 3 moons. March. In these 3 months the cucumbers had already turned cold. Li Shimin felt like the world was spinning. If that was the case, then this drought would cause panic among the people. Coupled with the locusts that would follow, Li Shimin couldn't help but think of Zhang Feng. Perhaps only Zhang Feng could resolve this matter. If even he could not resolve it, then it would really be over. The next day, the sky was still dark. Li Shimin hurried out of the palace after dealing with important matters. When he arrived at the East Market, the sun had already risen to the top of his head. At this time, Zhang Feng yawned and slowly opened the door of his shop. As soon as he opened the door, Zhang Feng was stunned. He saw Lao Li sitting on the floor in front of the door in a daze. Yo Lao Li, what's wrong with you? Quick, come in, don't sit on the floor. Zhang Feng was a little confused. Could it be that this guy was chased out by his wife for cheating? But it didn't seem right. However, when Li Shimin turned around and looked at Zhang Feng saw his red eyes and understood something. This guy must have been caught cheating on his wife. Lao Li, what kind of situation are you in now? Are you really going to do that? Hey, little brother Zhang, I don't have time for that. Li Shimin couldn't help but smile bitterly. Haven't I been dealing with the business of Longyu Dao these days? How is it? Zhang Feng asked curiously. How can it be? The continuous drought has caused the farmland, which was already on the brink of crisis, to be completely ruined. At this time, except for the Qilian Mountain, there is no water in other places in Longyu Dao. Brother, I'm going to go bankrupt. Li Shimin said affectionately. But seriously, if the business of Longyu Dao was not dealt with properly, then the Tang Dynasty would really go bankrupt. And at that time, the Tang Dynasty would be the most miserable empire in history. Zhang Feng listened carefully to Li Shimin's complaints. He was not surprised at all. Instead, he seemed to have known it all along. This made Li Shimin more and more confused. Lao Li, I really know how to deal with this. And I can tell you that we won't go bankrupt. Do you know why I said before that this drought is far from as simple as you think? In addition to the border problem, the biggest problem is to deal with the shortage of water. I really overestimated the emperor before. I thought he could think of that, but I didn't expect that the emperor could also be confused. Li Shimin blushed. But this was not the time to pursue the matter. He hurriedly asked, "Then how do you think this matter should be solved?" "Don't worry." Zhang Feng waved his hand. He said lightly, "Let me ask you, now that there is a drought, what does Long Yu Dao need the most?" "Water." "Do you still need to say that?" Li Shimin was a little confused and said doubtfully, "Yes, water." Zhang Feng snapped his fingers and said mysteriously, "Lao Li, your chance to make a fortune is here again." Chapter 44. What? Make a fortune? Li Shimin almost spat out a mouthful of blood. How could he be in the mood to make money now? He only wanted to solve the drought in Long Yu Dao as soon as possible and deal with the locusts. How could he be in the mood to make a fortune? But, at this moment, Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder as if he could see Li Shimin's anxiety. He said calmly, "Forget it, I won't tease you anymore. Let me ask you, what are they going to do first when Long Yu Dao is short of water?" "Open a canal to draw water." "Do you even need to ask? From where?" "Now only Mount Qilian has water. Naturally they'll draw water from Mount Qilian." "Wrong. Of course it's best to draw water now. But you have to know that if you draw water like this, you won't be able to draw water to the place for at least a year." "Why?" Li Shimin was a little confused. Opening a canal to draw water now was the best way. If that didn't work, was he going to watch the drought in Long Yu Dao spread like this? Zhang Feng sighed, "To think that you're still a businessman. Don't you know that rain after a long drought is a bad thing? Now that the entire Long Yu Dao is short of water, if you dig a canal now, your water won't be enough for the soil to absorb." Li Shimin was shocked. That's right. He had forgotten about that. At this time of drought, how could that little bit of water be enough? Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. Asked, "By the way, Lao Li, where are your businesses concentrated?" "They're mainly concentrated in Shazhou, Ganzhou, and other places in Long Yu Dao. You know that place is the western gate of the Tang Dynasty, so many businessmen choose to build their industrial chain there." Understood. This guy had concentrated all his businesses in one place. No wonder he was so flustered. Anyone would be flustered if this happened to him. "Old Li, I'm seriously doubting how you managed to make your business so big. Don't you understand the principle of wealth not being concentrated?" Forget it." Zhang Feng shook his head upon hearing this. "I know that your mind is filled with thoughts about the business, so I won't beat around the bush. I advise you to stop talking about the way to open a canal. If you want to leave your name in history and attract the attention and favor of the current emperor, you can do so. But if you want to solve this drought, you'd better not do that." Why? Li Shimin was dumbfounded. At this moment he was getting more and more confused. Could it be that other than opening enough canals, there were other ways to get out of this crisis in a short period of time? Could it be that you're talking about using manpower to carry water? Li Shimin suddenly thought of a problem. Wrong. Zhang Feng was speechless. "Go and make some water wheels." "Do you know what a water wheel is?" "That thing, as long as you have a lot of livestock, it can at least solve the problem of water in the shortest amount of time and with the least amount of loss. As for watering the crops, that's the next step. You have to solve the problem of drawing water for the people and livestock first, then use the wastewater to water the farmland. Isn't that perfect?" "This isn't very good, is it?" Although Li Shimin had never farmed before, how much water was left after the people and livestock used? How was he going to water them? How was he going to solve this crisis? Wasn't that just fooling around? Just treat your Zhuang family as humans and only water the seedlings. Is that not enough? Who asked you to water large tracts? Do you think you're the Dragon King? Zhang Feng was speechless. The first step is to solve the problem of drinking water for the people and livestock. Then you can calculate how many carts of water per mu of land to save the farmers who can't withstand the drought. With such precise calculations, how could you make a mistake? Moreover, the water used by the people can be deposited and fed to the livestock. We can save the excess water and recycle it. Isn't that good? Isn't that saving effort? Isn't it good? The second step is to save the farmers who can withstand the drought if we have excess water. In this way, won't the problem be completely solved? Li Shimin was shocked. But he also understood. If what Zhang Feng said was true, then, combining all the horses and human resources in the Tang Dynasty, the drought could be solved in less than a month. This was really a way to kill two birds with one stone. But the problem was, Brother Little Zhang, your method is good, but where did you get such a big bucket? Not only that, even if the bucket can really hold so much water, it will still take time. If this goes on, then, can the people of Longyu Road and the Zhuang family wait? Come. I'll give you another trick. It was really hard to explain. Zhang Feng did not intend to say anything more. Instead, he slapped his thigh, took the brush, ink, paper and inkstone from the counter, and then wrote and drew on the paper for a moment. The tip of Zhang Feng's brush danced. A moment later, something that looked like a drum and a bucket appeared on the paper. To put it bluntly, Zhang Feng was just building a wooden water tank based on the model of a modern water storage car. You've seen this thing in the wooden bucket in your house, right? This thing is the improved version of that wooden bucket. You just need to follow the things on this blueprint, and I guarantee that you can solve the drought within half a month. What a pity. Li Shimin was shocked. But when he heard Zhang Feng say that it was a pity, he could not help but feel his heart clench. What's a pity? It's a pity that Li Shimin doesn't know. If the current emperor knew about this method, and if he sent 100,000 soldiers to do it, I guarantee that in less than 10 days, the people of Longyu Road would be able to drink water. Li Shimin's mouth twitched. But this was not the time to chat with Zhang Feng. He pulled out a stack of banknotes from his pocket. Brother Zhang, thank you. Lao Li, I won't say anything more. I'll go back first. Let's talk another time. Zhang Feng looked at the banknotes in his hand and his eyelids twitched. Thank you, Lao Li. Remember, the next time you come, I'll show you a package. Chapter 45. How could Li Shimin remember what Zhang Feng said at this moment? After hurriedly leaving the tavern and turning a corner, Li Shimin didn't even bother to sit in the sedan chair. He hurriedly rode back to the imperial city on a fast horse. Inform Fang Xianling and the others to come to the imperial study for a discussion. Only these words were left in the air. However, Li Shimin's voice had already disappeared in the crowd. After a while, in the imperial study. When Li Shimin returned to the imperial study, everyone was already waiting there. Your Majesty, you left the palace again? Have you thought of a solution this time? Everyone knew that Li Shimin had left the palace, and they had a tacit understanding. The main reason why he left the palace at this time was to solve the drought problem. Seeing the excitement on Li Shimin's face, how could they not know that the problem was solved? Yes, I have thought of this. As he spoke, Li Shimin solemnly took out the blueprint from his chest and repeated what Zhang Feng said to him. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but look at each other. This method was feasible. However, it could only solve the crisis temporarily. What about after the crisis? Moreover, if Li Shimin was really a businessman, this method would really work. But he wasn't. He was the emperor. What he wanted to solve was not the problem of one or two fields. What he wanted to solve was the problem of the entire Longyu Road. Your Majesty, this... Yes. Your Majesty, if at this time, we gather all the businessmen in Longyu Road and give them some policy rewards, will they? Wei Jing slapped his thigh and excitedly interrupted Fang Xianling. Hearing this, everyone's eyes couldn't help but light up. That's right. Since Zhang Feng was talking about the solution of the businessmen, and Longyu Road was the most important trade route in the entire Tang Dynasty. Most of the merchants' business areas there occupied the majority. At this time they should be the most anxious ones, right? At this time, if the emperor issued an edict to provide free help, and also provided transportation and tax convenience, how could those merchants not do it? Unless he was really an idiot. This method works. Wei Jing, I'll leave this matter to you. Also, gather all the soldiers in Longyu Dao and cooperate fully with this operation. Li Shimin stood up and heavily patted Wei Jing's shoulder. I'll give you a personal order. If you encounter any obstacles, act first and report later. Hiss. Everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Who would stop such a thing? Who would dare? However, everyone also knew that there were interests involved in this. Thinking about it, he felt relieved. Right at this moment, Li Shimin walked around the study a few times before saying, "There's one more thing. Zhang Sun Wuji, hear the decree. I order you to immediately gather all the craftsmen in the world. You must rush to Longyu Road within 3 days to assist in the treatment of the drought." Yes, Your Majesty. As the orders were issued one after another, the giant Tang Dynasty group was activated again. Secret decrees and imperial edicts flew out of the imperial study in Taiji Palace like snowflakes and then scattered throughout the Tang Dynasty. As a result, everyone was shocked. What on earth had happened to the Tang Dynasty? And the initiator of this matter, Zhang Feng, after seeing that there was no business, simply closed the door, lay on the bed and fell asleep. He had no idea that because of his words, the entire Tang dynasty was completely boiling at this time. As for Longyu Road, Li Shimin's secret decrees were passed to the hands of rich merchants. These rich merchants were really more anxious than anyone else. Not only did Wei Jing not give any power to them, but he also made a lot of money for the Tang dynasty because of this. At this time, everyone in Longyu circuit was extremely busy because of this matter. In the following days, mules, military horses and water carts pulled by oxen set out from various places in a grandiose manner. They went to Mount Qilian, the only source of water in Longyu circuit, to fetch water. Then they hurried back to various places in Longyu Road. A drought that threatened the Tang dynasty was quietly suppressed at this time. And Li Shimin could finally breathe a sigh of relief after learning all this. Looking at the reports of Longyu Road's success, Li Shimin was very gratified. Li Shimin waved his hand and said with boundless heroism, "Pass down the imperial decree. Summon Wei Zhang and the others to the palace for a banquet. I'm going to hold a banquet to entertain everyone." He wanted very much to have a drink with Zhang Feng. He even wanted to directly issue a decree to make Zhang Feng an official. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to. This was really not the right time. And as Zhang Feng said, this was not the right time. Therefore, Li Shimin could only hold a banquet to entertain everyone and ask whether he should show his cards now or wait until Zhang Feng was willing to be an official. However, at this time, a fast horse rushed through the night and hurriedly appeared outside Taiji Palace. Report. Urgent report from the Emperor. Tubo. Tuyuhan envoys are here to see the Emperor. What? Tuyuhan? Tubo? This is... Li Shimin, who was a little excited just now, could not help but frown at this time. Could it be that they were aware of the drought in Great Tang that they were here? Or did they know about the locust plague? Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "Send a message to let them rest in the post house. We'll discuss it tomorrow." Yes. Chapter 46. Taiji Palace. Imperial Study. At this moment, everyone was no longer in the mood to celebrate. At this moment, everyone was staring at the imperial wine on the table with a sad face. Everyone was silent. Seeing this, Li Shimin was anxious and could only rub his forehead. "Dear officials, what do you think is the purpose of Tubo and Tuyuhan's visit? How should we deal with it?" Everyone was silent. But after a while, Du Ruhui stroked his white beard and said, "Your Majesty, if we gather all the information we have before, the drought in Tubo and Tuyuhan is basically uncontrollable. I think they are here to form an alliance or to know about the drought in Longyu Dao. The drought is definitely uncontrollable. But how did they know that we were transporting water from Mount Qilian? Could it be that their spies are already lurking in the Tang dynasty?" Everyone could not help but feel a little scared. It had only been half a month since they found out about the solution to the drought. The news had already spread? What else could explain this except for the presence of spies? "Your Majesty, I think they are here to ask for help. As for the matter of transporting water from Mount Qilian, I think it is impossible for them to know about it. Our people have been keeping an eye on them. Even if they know, what can they do? Our Tang dynasty is vast and abundant in resources, and there are many rivers. At this time, there are still rivers in Tubo that have not dried up. It is impossible to solve the drought in a short time. If we can use the drought to destroy the two countries, then..." Li Shimin suddenly understood. "Then the question now is, should we meet them or not? If we don't meet them, how should we deal with them? If we meet them, what should we do?" This was the biggest problem facing the Tang dynasty. If we meet them, what should we do? If we don't meet them, how should we solve this crisis? Let's meet them. If we don't meet them, it will definitely make Tubo and Tuyuhan desperate. Then, let's meet them. The next morning, in the political announcement hall. Today, everyone was not as lazy as before. Everyone straightened their backs and stood in the middle of the main hall. Even Qing Yaojin, who was used to being lazy, had a solemn expression on his face as if he was about to enter a battlefield. A moment later, a young eunuch announced, "The Emperor has arrived." Following which, the crowd shouted in unison, "Long live the Emperor." Li Shimin strode forward, waved his hand and said majestically, "Summon the envoys of Tufan and Tuyuhan for an audience." After a while, a group of people wearing Tubo and Tuyuhan uniforms walked into the hall. The crowd did not even look at Li Shimin. They just casually cupped their hands and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty, the Tang Emperors." Everyone's arrogance infuriated all the family members in the hall. When they saluted, they only cupped their fists as if they were greeting strangers. Obviously, they did not put Li Shimin in their eyes. Li Shimin could not help but show a trace of displeasure in his eyes. But he still suppressed his anger and said calmly, "May I know why you have come to the Tang Dynasty?" Recently, Tubo and Tuyuhun have encountered a drought that is hard to come by in 100 years. And we have learned that the Tang Dynasty seems to have also encountered a drought. So, we have found a solution, so we have come to present it to your Majesty, the Tang Emperors. Oh. Li Shimin smiled. The ministers also smiled. Are they trying to show off in front of an expert? And it seems that they don't know that the Tang Dynasty has found a solution? Then it will be easy to handle. Li Shimin suppressed his smile and asked, "May I know what the solution is?" The Tubo envoy said arrogantly, "My king received the call of heaven today. He found that there is still water under the sand, and the hottest place has more water. We just need to take out the utensils after night falls, put them on the ground and cover them with a layer of talisman paper. The next day we will have a full utensils of water." Is this a fraud? Or is he king confused by hunger? How can he think of such a solution? Li Shimin was stunned and then shook his head. Then why did you come to the Tang Dynasty with this news? Could it be? The Tubo envoy arrogantly interrupted Li Shimin and said loudly, "That's right. My king received an edict from heaven. The Tang Dynasty is in danger, and as a neighbor we have the duty to help the Tang Dynasty." But everyone suddenly understood. Was this the highlight of the show? The Tubo envoy said calmly, "In exchange, we Tubo are willing to give up half of Longyu Circuit's land in exchange for the water source method with Tuyuhun. Together we will save the people of the Tang Dynasty. What do you think, Your Majesty?" Li Shimin's eyebrows twitched. What a boastful tone. How greedy was that? Half of Longyu Circuit's land? How could they think of that? That was the Tang Dynasty's gateway to the west. Tubo and Tuyuhun could not sit still and wanted to take advantage of the situation. However, Li Shimin was also angry this time. Did they really think that he was a fool? Li Shimin's eyes flashed with a touch of coldness and said lightly, "Then I thank the good intentions of the two countries first. Unfortunately, my great Tang has already solved the problem of the drought. And now we have solved the water source problem in Longyu Circuit." What? Impossible. This? My king did not even... How did you do it? Oh my god. The Tubo and Tuyuhun people were in an uproar. However, Li Shimin said calmly again, "If you two can't think of a solution to the drought, I will use the same method to help you." Chapter 47. Pfft. Ah. Ha ha ha. Lao Tzu can't hold it in any longer. Ha ha. Li Shimin's voice trailed off. Qing Yaojin finally couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. This was like a fuse. Everyone couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. This kind of thing. How could Tuyuhun and Tubo say that? If they didn't solve the epidemic in Longyu Road, they would really be slapped in the face this time. But what a coincidence. They really managed to stop the epidemic this time. Otherwise, they would have managed to stop it and even achieved significant results. This put Tubo and Tuyuhun in an awkward position. Your Majesty, the Tang Emperors. May I ask, what method did you use to solve the drought problem? This doesn't make sense. Our great king prayed for 3 days and 3 nights before he found out about this method. How did you find out about this method? Your Majesty, the Tang Emperors. The Tuyuhun envoy, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up. Although I don't know what method you used, I can tell you that this method definitely won't work. We Tuyuhun are good at divination. A few days ago we found out about a method from the stars. And according to the stars we found a water source. How did you do it? From the laughter of the crowd, the Tuyuhun envoy finally realized that something was wrong. However, it was also because of this laughter that the two envoys couldn't help but feel guilty. Even when Tuyuhun said this, the laughter didn't stop. Instead, it grew louder. Everyone was dumbstruck by this unexpected development. Could it be that they really solved the problem? Their purpose in coming to the Tang Dynasty was very clear. They wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to gain some benefits. Although they solved some of their water source problem, it wasn't much. Moreover, there were signs of an outbreak. And to be honest, if they solved the drought problem, why would they be so stupid to come to the Tang Dynasty? This time they came to find out if the Tang Dynasty solved the water source problem. Secondly, they wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail the Tang Dynasty and gain some benefits from it. However, from the looks of it, their plans seemed to have failed. Li Shimin couldn't hold it in any longer. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "All right. The two of you have come from afar. Guards, bring the envoys down and entertain them well. If possible, the Tang dynasty will definitely entertain you well. That's enough, court is dismissed. The court will disperse. Li Shimin and the others hurried back to the imperial study. However, the moment they entered the imperial study, everyone could not help but burst into laughter. Ah, what a joke. They even took the opportunity to blackmail the Tang dynasty. If it weren't for brother Zhang Feng, who helped me solve this crisis, my Tang dynasty would be really greedy today. Isn't that right? All thanks to brother Zhang Feng. But to be honest this time, don't you see that Tubo and Tuyuhun have a solution? Li Shimin had a bad feeling. He said in a deep voice, I think Tubo is really desperate this time, so he took the opportunity to come here and take the opportunity to enter the Tang dynasty. It can't be, right? It can't be. Tubo has the source of the river. How can it be? Everyone was in an uproar. If Li Shimin's analysis was correct, this time, it seemed that the matter was not as simple as it seemed. Tubo's intentions were unclear. He definitely would not be so kind as to come and tell everyone the solution to the drought. As for safety, he only had one intention: to find out if the Tang dynasty had a solution to the drought. He also wanted to confirm if the Tang dynasty really had the possibility of a locust plague, because they also noticed the insect eggs in the soil. This time it was really troublesome. Everyone could not help but frown. If that was the case, then, Your Majesty, I think that if it's possible, we should tell the two sides about the solution. This thing is not a big secret. In less than half a month, even if we don't tell them, they will know the solution. That's right. And we can also take advantage of this to reap some benefits. Why not? Okay, I'll think about it. Li Shimin rubbed his forehead. After thinking hard for a moment, he pointed at Zhang Sun Wuji and said, Wuji, later, you go set up a banquet for me and settle this matter while you're at it. Yes, Your Majesty. After receiving the order, everyone left in a hurry. Li Shimin looked at the sunlight outside the window and felt a burst of pride in his heart. This was the feeling of a ruler of a great country. This was all Zhang Feng. If he did not exist, then all of this today would not have happened. Although the Tang dynasty could also solve this crisis, he did not think that the humiliation of Tubo and Tuyuhun could be solved so quickly. All of this was because of Zhang Feng. Li Shimin sighed again. He looked at Zhang Feng's painting on the top of the study room. He smacked his lips and said, Little Gizi, send the message that I'm leaving the palace. Yes, Your Majesty. The next moment, Li Shimin disguised himself and hurriedly left the palace without being disturbed. However, just as Li Shimin was about to leave the imperial city and enter Chang, and Wei Zheng, who had been waiting for Li Shimin, stopped him. Second brother, are you going out? Chapter 48. Hearing that, Li Shimin's face darkened. Damn it. At a corner not far away, Wei Zheng was squatting in the tea shop, staring at him. Next to him, Qing Yaojin looked at Li Shimin reluctantly, indicating that it was all Wei Zheng's doing. The three of them looked at each other. Li Shimin came to the tea shop sullenly. Old Wei, what are you? Second brother, I've been waiting for you. Do you know that I have to wait for you here every day? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Li Shimin's face darkened and he almost cursed. Damn it. He knew that these people were after Zhang Feng, but he didn't expect them to be so persistent. No, Zhang Feng is mine. Qing Yaojin had clearly warned him that Zhang Feng was his, but Li Shimin was still a little afraid of the others. Especially this old man Wei Zheng. What if he wants him? Then it'll be really troublesome. However, it was obviously impossible to drive Wei Zheng away now. Li Shimin simply said it out loud. Old Wei, you know the significance of being a shopkeeper. If he stays with me, then you also know that it's extraordinary. Why do you also want to interfere? Wei Zheng's face was dignified. He had known that Li Shimin would say that. He couldn't help but say, I know, but my place is also important. If he comes to my place, not only will he be able to resolve the matters of the court in a short period of time, Your Majesty's matter will also be resolved in a short period of time. Only then will such a talent be able to display his talents. Your Majesty. I know this, but if I stand in the overall situation of the Tang dynasty and talk about brother Zhang Feng, I think he really has to go to the secretarial department. Old Wei. Li Shimin smacked his lips and said lightly, There's no room for discussion. Yo. Everyone is here. At this moment, Zhang Sun Wuji hurried out of the imperial city gate. But the next moment he saw Li Shimin and the others sitting in a tea shop on the street, arguing about something. He was going to find Li Shimin, But when he learned that the emperor was not here and combined with the current situation, he knew that the emperor must have gone to the tavern at this time. Zhang's son Wuji immediately became anxious. Zhang Feng was also the one he had reserved was the one who had reserved. This didn't make sense. Although the emperor was indeed the leader of the group, Zi and Zhang Feng were two different things. Zhang Feng had to go to him. Everyone knew that if Zhang went to someone, he would be the one who would be much more relaxed. As for slacking off, who wouldn't be happy? On the one hand, he could get things done. On the other hand, he could get things done perfectly in the shortest time. At this moment, when everyone saw Zhang's son Wuji with a sneaky smile on his face, they all knew what he was up to. Li Shimin's face darkened. "Old son, didn't you go to entertain the guests? What are you doing? Hey, Lao Li. I was just about to look for you. Don't mention it. Those people will leave in a hurry after leaving the main hall. I'm still wondering what they're going to do." Everyone was shocked when they heard that. This matter was really guessed correctly. Tubo and Tuyuhun were really there to inquire about the news. Now that they didn't get any news and even lost face, how could they not hurry back to report it? This was a good thing. But it was also a bad thing. If they didn't handle it well, then what awaited them would be a large number of envoys from the two countries. At that time, they would really be done for. Li Shimin frowned but didn't take it to heart. Come if you can. Pay more attention to this matter, especially the border matters. Activate the highest level spies and tell them to pay more attention to the actions of the two countries towards the Tang Dynasty in the future. I know and understand this matter. I've already started to do it. Wouldn't Zhang's son Wuji think that the emperor was urging him to leave? How could he be willing to leave now? Seeing that it didn't work, Li Shimin sighed helplessly. All right. However, I advise you not to take the initiative to reveal our identities. The little shopkeeper still thinks that we are merchants. Moreover, he doesn't know that we are real people. This kind of virtuous sage all has eccentricities. If something goes wrong, then the chicken will fly away and the eggs will be lost. We understand. But, Wei Jing said with a serious face, this matter is not related to the imperial court. Second brother, I think we should compete fairly. What do you think? This. Li Shimin's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It turned out that this was Wei Zhang's trap. Fine. In that case, let's do it this way. Li Shimin nodded with a little worry, tacitly agreeing to this matter. Yo, Lao Li? Lao Sun? Lao Chen? You're here to have tea? At this moment, a voice that Li Shimin couldn't be more familiar with suddenly sounded behind them. They were so scared that they trembled all over. They were afraid that he had heard their conversation just now. But fortunately, everyone's self-cultivation was extremely high. At this time they were prepared to deal with this kind of thing. Li Shimin pretended to be surprised and turned around. Yo, shopkeeper. We're talking about you. You're really speaking of the devil? Come on. Ever since these brothers of mine saw your calligraphy, they have been begging me to come to you and ask for one of your paintings. Zhang Feng suddenly understood. But the next moment he looked at the unfamiliar Wei Zhang and asked, "This is..." Chapter 49. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. They were afraid that Zhang Feng would recognize Wei Zhang. But at the next moment, Zhang Feng's words relieved everyone's worries. Oh, let me introduce this person to you. He's a rich businessman from Longyu Road and also Lao Li's friend. You can call him Lao Wei. Yo, Lao Wei. While speaking, Zhang Feng put his arm around Wei Zhang's shoulder. Let's go. What's so good about this tea? Haven't you tasted good tea before? Let's go. We have good wine. Let's go to my pub. Since you're Lao Li's good friend, you're Zhang Feng's good friend. Today I've prepared a few jars of good wine. It's my treat. Let's go. While speaking, Zhang Feng grabbed Wei Zhang and walked forward. Seeing this, Li Shimin and the others' faces darkened. What did this mean? Li Shimin hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang, could it be that you don't even want me, Lao Li, anymore after knowing Lao Wei? Seeing Li Shimin pretending to be angry, Zhang Feng couldn't help laughing. Look at what you're saying. What are you talking about? Am I, Zhang Feng, that kind of person? I, Zhang Feng, am where I am today because of you, Lao Li. Let's go, we're all good friends. Don't be so reserved. While speaking, Zhang Feng put his arm around their shoulders, one on the left and one on the back. But Wei Zhang couldn't keep his face. His drooping face kept twitching. What kind of scandal was this? It was a disgrace to the refined. A disgrace to the refined. But, just this once. In order to see Zhang Feng's talent, Wei Zhang suppressed the displeasure in his heart and followed Zhang Feng slowly. If it weren't for the Tang Dynasty's current crisis with Wei Zheng's temper, he wouldn't be Wei Zheng if he didn't point at Zhang Feng's nose and scold him. At this time, Zhang Sun Wuji and Qing Yaojin, who were following Li Shimin and Wei Zheng, were dumbfounded. What was going on? How could this work? What the hell? Are they crazy? When did Wei Zheng have such a good temper? But they didn't dare to say it. At this time they just quietly followed the three people quietly. Not far from the pub. Moreover, Li Shimin had made arrangements beforehand, and everyone was in disguise. This matter did not attract anyone's attention. After a while they slowly came to Zhang Feng's pub. Zhang Feng habitually left them in the pub. Everyone please wait a moment. I'll get some side dishes. Boss, you do what you need to do. We can do it ourselves. Li Shimin found a place with good lighting and sat down happily. After a while, Zhang Feng hurried in with a large tray. Then he went to the wine cellar and got 2 jugs of fragrant wine. Lao Li, you came in a hurry last time. Do you remember when you left last time I said I would treat you to the strongest wine this time? Yes, this is it. While they were talking, Zhang Feng pulled out the cork on the wine jug with a bang. In an instant, the rich aroma of the wine filled the whole pub. At this time, Li Shimin's eyelids couldn't help twitching. Boss, this wine is good, but it's too strong. Last time, I drank too much and almost made a mistake. Let's drink less this time so as not to make a mistake. Last time, Li Shimin almost made a big mistake. If he didn't wake up at the last minute, he would have been fired and investigated Wei Zheng. Thinking about it now, he was a little scared. And that time, because he drank too much wine, he made a mistake in the night investigation in Chang and City and was scolded by Wei Zheng. Zhang Feng chuckled. No, I won't. The wine last time was not diluted, so it was a little strange. But after that time the wine has been completely changed. It retains the original mellow taste, but the alcohol content has decreased a lot. This time everyone drink to your heart's content. This time it's my treat. Zhang Feng waved his hand generously, then took a small stool and sat between Li Shimin and Wei Zheng. Speaking of which, Lao Li, you really got into trouble last time. If it weren't for your quick wits, you might be in jail now. Zhang Feng clinked his wine bowl with everyone inside. Wei Zheng's eyes flashed when he heard that. Brother Zhang, are you talking about that time? Isn't it that time, the night investigation in Chang'an City? Everyone was shocked. Could it be that the boss had guessed it? But it couldn't be, right? Li Shimin's eyes flashed. Boss, you're telling the truth. Last time I drank with these guys. I didn't expect a servant to eavesdrop and brag about it. But our Lao Li is quick-witted. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see each other this time. Li Shimin laughed and decisively changed the topic. By the way, Lao Wei likes your calligraphy very much. His hobbies are similar to yours, so this time he made a fuss and wanted to come along. Boss, why don't you? Hey! Lao Wei, you like Confucianism too. That's right. After seeing the calligraphy in Lao Li's house, I learned something, so I wanted to ask for your advice. However, the next moment, Zhang Feng shrugged. Unfortunately, I only know a little. Chapter 50. A little? Everyone was dumbfounded. However, Zhang Feng touched his nose awkwardly. How could he know anything? He was just a plagiarist who borrowed other people's things from historical allusions. Otherwise, how could he compare himself to others? However, it seemed that he had blown himself out of proportion this time. Could it be that this old Li really had a strange person by his side? If that was the case, he might lose face this time. However, on second thought, Zhang Feng made up his mind. What was there to be afraid of? There were so many things in Huaxia's 5,000 years of history, ancient and modern. Could it be that they knew everything? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng changed the topic. However, since Old Wei is also interested in this, then I will risk my life to accompany you. Ah, risk my life? That's not necessary. Confucianism is broad and profound. I only know a little about it. I have a question. Wei Jing changed the topic and looked solemn. I have heard that you are very good at governing a country. Then Old Wei, happened to read some books before. I wanted to pass the imperial examinations and become a scholar, but in the end I ended up as a businessman. I would like to ask you, little shopkeeper, what is governing a country? Governing a country? When Wei Jing said this, the temperature in the shop suddenly dropped a lot. Zhang Feng also had a strange look on his face. What the F***ck? I would like to ask, are you guys stubborn or what? How dare you talk about such a sensitive topic? Aren't you afraid of being heard and thrown into jail? Li Shimin waved his hand and said hurriedly, Brother, don't worry. We are all on the same side here. We are just drinking. The situation of the world, to me. Fine. 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 Zhang Feng had long known about Li Shimin's mouth. He said speechlessly, "Actually, when it comes to governing a country, I do know a little about it. The way we know about governing a country is from Confucianism, Taoism, or an extension of law. Confucianism teaches people to do good, benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trust. However, the Dharma Tao emphasizes a different structure, which is to rule the country according to law. Only Tao requires a different kind of profound level. However, this kind of thing is not suitable for the current situation. But when it comes to governing a country, I don't agree with such things." Oh. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Talking about these things in public, if it was someone else, it would be a capital offense. But who were these people? Therefore, heavy people were not afraid. However, Zhang Feng's shocking words had another layer of meaning behind them. That would be interesting. Zhang Feng continued, "What is law? Law means that we forcefully add our own rules to this world, the original world. This law is below the law of nature, but it is also above the law of nature. Although this is indeed beneficial to the country's management at this time, it is inhumane. It's easier for people with ulterior motives to take advantage of the loophole. As for the Confucianism, do you think it is feasible for the current situation of the Tang Dynasty?" Everyone shook their heads when they heard this. "Do you mean that there is a problem with the current law?" Wei Zheng could not help but ask. "No problem. Aren't we talking about the way to govern a country?" "The way to govern a country? What is governing a country?" "That is to rely on the people. Without the people, how can a country be governed?" Then we come back to the last problem. Our current problem is how to cure this country. You have seen the situation around the Tang Dynasty now. Basically, people's lives are hanging by a thread. I learned this morning that the envoys of Tubo and Tuyuhun had an audience with His Majesty. Did you know? Zhang Feng asked in a mysterious manner. Although everyone knew. But they could not say it. Li Shimin pretended not to know anything and exclaimed, "What? Why don't we know about this? Is there going to be a war?" Zhang Feng rolled his eyes at Li Shimin. "You can't wait for a war, can you? How would he dare to fight now? If my guess is right, Tubo and Tuyuhun are going to make a big move now, and their drought is going to be unavoidable. For them to come to the Great Tang, they must be using this chance to extort the Great Tang." Everyone was shocked again. This matter. Except for the people in the imperial court. How could the envoy of Tubo, who did not tell outsiders and left in a hurry, talk about such a thing? Then, in that case, these things were all guessed by Zhang Feng? This Wei Zheng was shocked. He could not help but ask, "How did you know about this? Was it also a guess?" Zhang Feng chuckled, "Yes. You guessed it right, I guessed it. Not only that, I also guessed that the emperor must have dealt with this matter and found a way to solve the drought in Longyu Road. Otherwise, how could Tubo's people leave so quickly?" Li Shimin was shocked. He stared at Qing Yaojin and said, "You know about this too?" Qing Yaojin shook his head innocently. However, Zhang Feng did not notice these small movements. He continued to say, "Regarding this matter, my guess is spot on. Furthermore, the people from Tubo had come with a mighty aura. Who wouldn't know that they were acting so arrogantly? Who didn't see it? Just now, when I was in the market, I saw that the guards suddenly relaxed. Does that mean anything? This means that Tubo and his people have left." Chapter 51. Amazing. This was King Godly. How did he know about this? Everyone could not help but be shocked. Who would have guessed that he could guess so much just based on his understanding of the market? But, was Zhang Feng really guessing? Part of it was guessing, but most of it was based on the memories in his memory. In the second year of Jingguan in the Tang Dynasty, in early June, Tubo and Tuyuhun were suffering from a drought. They took the opportunity to seize Longyu Road but returned with no hope. How could he not know about such historical records? However, Zhang Feng was even more smug at this time. It also made Zhang Feng's identity even more mysterious. Wei Zheng seemed to be a little skeptical and continued to ask, "What is a talent? A talented person can do it. Then how can he be called a virtuous minister?" A virtuous minister? Zhang Feng was a little hesitant. He looked at Wei Zheng with a strange face and said, "Old Wei, can we not talk about this? This is a serious crime that deserves to be beheaded." Zhang Feng was speechless. Wei Zheng was also a little guilty. He was too anxious. But this matter was really urgent. Excited. From the description of the way to rule a country, he could see that this Zhang Feng was really a great talent. For such a talent, if he didn't have the correct guidance he would most likely walk down the wrong path. Moreover, Zhang Feng looked so young. If that was the case, it would be the misfortune of the Tang dynasty. Thinking of this, Wei Jing smiled embarrassedly. Isn't this a discussion? I'm just asking casually. If you don't know, it's okay. Let's drink. Wait. Zhang Feng's stubbornness came up. Who said that he could not say it? Just think about the translations of the ancient people and he could say a lot of it. Moreover, he was a genius in the literature department. He was not unfamiliar with these things. After thinking for a bit, Zhang Feng said, the so-called virtuous paragon is a person who is able to coordinate all the talented people, and there are very few people in China who can be called virtuous paragon. At least Zhuge Liang doesn't count. As for these virtuous ministers, let's talk about the current imperial court. Wei Jing is one of them. Although he is meticulous in everything, his loyalty is unmatched. Then what about Qing Yaojin? That's right. What about Zhang Sun Wuji? The two of them asked anxiously. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, although these two people aren't as good as Wei Jing, they aren't too far off. Their conduct can be considered good, but they aren't worthy of a virtuous minister. Their faces darkened. Wei Jing felt extremely comfortable at this moment. This was an affirmation for him. Moreover, he praised him in front of Li Shimin. Who wouldn't like to hear such things? But, since there are virtuous ministers, there must be a good monarch. Let's talk about the current emperor. While they were talking, Li Shimin's eyes lit up, and he immediately pulled himself together. The current emperor, as I said before, is the emperor of the ages. I won't talk about this anymore. However, he is not a good person. Wow, not a good person? Everyone was aghast. At this moment, Li Shimin's expression froze. Zhang Feng continued, I know you must be very surprised. Everything the current emperor does is for the country and the people. Why is he not a good person? There is a reason. Let's recall Li Shimin's life. He fought all his life. The name of King Qin even made everyone tremble in fear. More than tens of thousands of people died in his hands. Moreover, in the previous Wei River Alliance, he signed this thing in humiliation to ensure the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. He is not a good person. How can a good person do these things? However, it is also because of Li Shimin's actions that he will definitely become the emperor of the ages. Spreading the word and accepting good people. Such a wise monarch, even in history, no one can compare with him. There is another saying. A good person can't be the emperor. If Li Shimin is a good person, he will definitely be soft-hearted. Then how can he pacify the Tang dynasty? If he couldn't bear the humiliation and sign the Wei River Alliance that day, maybe Chong and city will no longer exist now. How can there be such a Tang dynasty? Everyone was silent. And Li Shimin's heart was even more turbulent. Was this the first half of his life? At this moment, his thoughts returned to that young man, wearing a white cloak, whistling in the rain of blood and wind. And at the bank of the Wei River, who could understand that kind of despair? Even at this moment, in the hearts of all the ministers, perhaps they were still cursing Li Shimin for signing the Wei River Alliance. But he didn't regret it. He really didn't regret this matter. Because if he didn't do so, the Tang dynasty would really be finished at that time. Good. Well said, shopkeeper. Li Shimin was so excited that he choked with sobs. He picked up the wine bowl and said, Come, let me toast you. To the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. Come, come, come. To the prosperity of the Tang dynasty. Let's toast. Everyone was aghast. They couldn't help but recall the glorious days of the past. However, Zhang Feng drank the wine in the bowl and said, But I want to mention one more person. Empress Zhang Sun. Chapter 52. I'm sure all of you know about Empress Zhang Sun, right? But what you don't know is that all the decisions made by His Majesty are made after discussing with Empress Zhang Sun. It can be said that Empress Zhang Sun owes half of the credit to the current imperial edict and every decision. Everyone was in an uproar. Who else knew about this except for Li Shimin? But now everyone knew. So everyone was shocked at this time. Although Empress Zhang Sun usually didn't ask about anything, they didn't expect that the Empress was so talented. Otherwise, why would Zhang Feng talk about her alone? At this time, Li Shimin's heart was more excited. She was his Empress. Empress Zhang Sun is Zhang Sun Wuji's sister, but this Empress is not simple. She can be compared to history, except for the wife of Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty. If it weren't for her, the Wei River Alliance wouldn't have been signed. That's not all. I'm sure that this time, It was Empress Zhang's son who solved the drought in Longyu Road, right? But this time he guessed wrong. This drought was really not Empress Zhang's son who dealt with it. It was himself. But this was all in the future. Li Shimin was silent at this time. Zhang Feng's mouth was dry from all the talking. He stopped and drank a big bowl of wine and then said, "Let's not talk about this. If we talk about it again we will lose our heads." I said a little too much. How can we talk about the Empress? Yes. Let's drink. Let's drink. Li Shimin took the opportunity to say. In fact, Li Shimin really benefited a lot from talking so much today. After a few more bowls of wine, Wei Jing took the opportunity to say, "Shopkeeper, with your ability, why don't you take the exam and get a scholarly honor? Why are you willing to be a shopkeeper in this tavern? Don't you think it's a waste of your talent?" Hearing this, everyone's ears perked up. Wei Jing continued, "My surname is Wei. Naturally, I have a distant relative who works in the secretarial department. If you want to go, ahem. Old Wei. You can't make the decision for the secretarial department." Li Shimin coughed violently and reminded. When Zhang Feng heard this he was indeed a little tempted. Secretarial supervisor. That was the department closest to the emperor. However, when he thought of that damn system, Zhang Feng could only smile helplessly. "Thank you, Old Wei, but this really isn't the right time." "Oh. What?" Wei Jing became interested. Zhang Feng laughed and said, "To put it bluntly, it all started when I left the mountain. At that time I looked at Chang and city and saw the purple chi coming from the east, so I wanted to experience the world of mortals. However, the time was not right." After talking nonsense for a while, Zhang Feng quickly shut up. However, Wei Jing seemed to believe it. He hurriedly asked, "If that's the case, I really heard from Lao Li that you seem to be a Taoist priest from Mount Wutai?" "Ahem. Yes. You can say that." "Damn Lao Li. Why did you say everything to others? I haven't married yet. If you spread it like this, I won't be able to get a hammer when the time comes." Everyone hurriedly ended this topic. They continued to drink and chat. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 rounds of dishes, when everyone was dizzy, Zhang Feng dizzily grabbed Wei Jing's hand and said, "I heard that you want to ask me for my calligraphy?" He especially emphasized the word, ask. At this time, hearing this, the corners of everyone's mouth could not help but twitch. "Yes. After seeing Lao Li's calligraphy. We've been thinking about it all this time. Brother Zhang. Come. Give me a piece of calligraphy, please." "Well, naturally, thank you." While talking, everyone also came up. Everyone could see Zhang Feng's talent, and Zhang Feng was destined to be the kind of person who would soar to the sky in the future. If they could leave his calligraphy at this time, then everything in the future would be a blessing for their descendants. Although the word ask didn't sound good, it didn't matter. Zhang Feng's talent was worth it. Okay. Zhang Feng laughed happily. Whether it was for money or to show off, Zhang Feng accepted it. Since everyone is so supportive, then today I will give everyone a piece of calligraphy that has been handed down for generations. While talking, Zhang Feng stood up unsteadily. Coming to the counter, he took out the 4 treasures of the study and began to write. Crossing the ocean. Hardships met, war scattered around the stars. The mountains and rivers shattered, the wind drifted, the life experience fluctuated, the rain hit the duckweed. The beachhead of terror speaks of terror, while the stray sighs and sighs. Since ancient times who didn't die, leaving a loyal heart to shine in the history. As the cursive words appeared on the paper, everyone went into an uproar. This word. Oh my God. This is a poem? The artistic conception of this. Oh my God. This must be a masterpiece passed down from generation to generation. This piece of calligraphy belongs to old Qin, no one can snatch it. Qing Yaojin patted everyone's shoulders, looked at Wei Jing and said with a threatening face. And Wei Jing did not seem to be afraid of him, instead, he smiled slightly. This was given to me by brother Zhang Feng. Chapter 53. Li Shimin glared at Qing Yaojin. "Shut up. Don't disturb brother Zhang Feng." Hearing that, Qing Yaojin shrank his neck and stopped talking. But he had made up his mind to get this piece of calligraphy. Although his knowledge was shallow, he could still feel the artistic conception in this piece of calligraphy. It was like a golden spear and an armored horse. This was something that could only be summed up by a general in his whole life. Such an artistic conception. If it was passed down, the Qing family would definitely remember him and the achievements of their ancestors. And Qing Yaojin could only suppress the excitement in his heart at this time. He looked at the calligraphy quietly and felt agitated. Zhang Feng was still writing and did not notice the strange look of the crowd. As the words fell one by one. Finally, Zhang Feng took out the big seal and stamped the name with a bang. Yes, this is good. Then I'll continue to write. As for who wants that, you can discuss it among yourselves. While speaking, Zhang Feng continued to write something. And at this time, everyone's eyes fell on Zhang Feng again. Suddenly, Zhang Feng's eyes closed tightly as he quietly pondered in his mind. Then, he abruptly opened his eyes and began to write on a new piece of white paper with a brush covered in ink. Sick writing in the heart. Sick bones scattered and the gauze hat wide, lonely officials thousands of miles away on the river dry. Lowly status does not dare to forget the country, things must wait for the coffin to close. The gods of heaven and earth support the temple, the elders of the capital look to the temple. Leaving the apprentice, one can understand the present and the ancient, one can look more carefully at midnight by the light. As the first line of words fell, everyone was in an uproar. This time, Zhang Feng did not write in cursive but in clerical script. It was not that he did not want to, but because the artistic conception of this poem must be written in regular script. Lu Yu was the poet he respected the most, so he was so serious about this poem. The regular words, stroke by stroke, made Zhang Feng's handwriting more elegant. Stroke by stroke like iron hook in silver painting. Heavens! Li Shimin was shocked. He was also someone who loved calligraphy, but when he saw Zhang Feng's calligraphy, even though it wasn't as bold as the cursive script, it made Zhang Feng's entire temperament change. A hint of elegance. A trace of unfathomable depth. Furthermore, what was the artistic conception in this poem? Wei Zheng's eyes flickered. If it weren't for the fact that Zhang Feng was currently composing, he would have given a Confucian bow. This was a poem that was really created for him. The artistic conception of the poem could no longer be described with words. As for the first poem, this one was really compatible with him. And Zhang Feng really did not know any of this. He only wrote whatever came to mind. Furthermore, he had old Wei who understood the Confucian Tao by his side. He did not dare to do so. As the words were spoken. In the end, Zhang Feng paused. Poetry. It was still a poem. But this time, the poem was created by Zhang Feng according to Lu Yu's masterpiece in his memory. As time went by, finally, the 4 pieces of calligraphy were finished. But everyone looked at Zhang Feng in silence. Was this a human? Or a god? To be able to complete such a peerless masterpiece in such a short time, was he still a human? Heavens! This was a god. A god given to the Tang Dynasty by God. Well, that's all for now. I believe that these words will be handed down as a masterpiece and will definitely be handed down. Brother Zhang Feng, can you bestow this illness rises from the book, to old Wei? Wei Zheng interrupted Zhang Feng's words, hurried in front of everyone, gave a big bow and then continued, they are all uncouth people and only I can understand the meaning of this calligraphy, so I'm willing to pay 100 taels. Zhang Feng was shocked. 100 taels? Oh my god. But at this time, Li Shimin was unhappy. Why should it be yours just because you said so? This emperor feels that this poem is written for this emperor. Immediately, Li Shimin waved his hand and said excitedly, Brother! You're my real brother. Thank you so much for this piece of calligraphy. Don't worry, I have a package here. Take it as an exchange for your calligraphy. Li Shimin immediately stopped Wei Zheng and was about to grab the calligraphy. But at this time Zhang Sun Wuji was also anxious. Looking left and right, he finally put another calligraphy on top. Qing Yaojin was the most pleased with himself. Seeing Li Shimin and Wei Zheng arguing with each other, he happily hugged the calligraphy like it was a treasure and hid in a corner with Zhang Sun Wuji, whispering to each other. Zhang Feng was speechless when he saw the two arguing with each other. That's enough, Lao Li. You're going overboard. Aren't there 4 pieces of calligraphy here? Each of us gets a piece of calligraphy. Didn't I give it to you before? Do you have to be like this? Li Shimin's face turned red when he heard that. But his hand that was holding the calligraphy did not loosen at all. Lao Li, you're in the wrong here. You know how old Wei is like. There's no room for discussion. Li Shimin immediately lost his temper. The two of them argued again. Zhang Feng was speechless and said, Lao Li, do you remember that I said that I would show you a treasure when we meet again? Hearing this, everyone looked at Zhang Feng with a swoosh. Treasure? Chapter 54. Everyone wanted to know. What exactly was the treasure Zhang Feng was talking about? Zhang Feng looked around sneakily, then pulled out a piece of paper from the account book under the abacus on the counter. Here it is. As he spoke, Zhang Feng carefully unfolded the paper in his hand and spread it out in front of everyone's eyes. A map that no one had ever seen before appeared on the paper. Although the drawing was not exquisite, at least Li Shimin and the other three saw the words, Tang Dynasty, at the bottom right of the paper map at first glance. This is, Li Shimin was shocked. Looking at the map, he asked with a puzzled face. This is the treasure you were talking about, little brother? But Wei Jing stared at the map thoughtfully. After looking at it carefully, he said, Brother Zhang, this map, is it the map of the west of the Tang Dynasty? Old Wei knows his stuff. Yes, this is the map of the west of the Tang Dynasty. Zhang Feng patted Wei Jing on the shoulder, looked at Li Shimin and the other two puzzled faces and said, You know about the Silk Road, right? Yes. But the map of the Silk Road has always been something that we businessmen have always respected. We were lucky enough to see it, but this map of the Silk Road seems to be different? Li Shimin looked at the map and said. The complete version of the map of the Silk Road was hidden in the palace of the Tang Dynasty, and all the commercial and military deployments in the west were carried out according to the map. But the map in front of them, it seemed to be very different from the map they knew. No one understood the meaning of the map, nor did they know why Zhang Feng took it out at this time. They couldn't help but look at Zhang Feng again. Zhang Feng pretended to be mysterious and said, You are all businessmen. Last time when Lao Li came to find me, he cried so miserably. As he spoke, Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder. Li Shimin, on the other hand, felt uneasy. He hurriedly explained, No. I really didn't cry. Really? However, under the knowing gazes of Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji, Li Shimin had no choice but to shut his mouth, and Zhang Feng did not give him a chance to explain. Because they were all men. They all wanted to save face. That's why I racked my brains and used all that I've learned in my life to create this map with the Night Guardian. This map starts from Chang, and then ends at the Mediterranean Sea. This map. Wait. Wei Jing reached out and stopped Zhang Feng. He asked, Little brother Zhang, how did you get this map? Or rather, how did you draw it? I calculated it. Let me tell you. Every night, when all of you are sleeping, I will be in outer space soaring above this world looking down on all living beings. Cough cough. Get to the point. The corner of Wei Zheng's mouth twitched. He interrupted Zhang Feng and asked, If this map was really drawn by you, then the meaning of this map is, to create a new business route. Think about the map that you know. Which merchant in the world doesn't know about something that even you know about? Do you want to get rich? Get rich? Everyone's faces darkened. However, this was not the time to make things clear. Li Shimin coughed. Little brother, continue. Lao Li has good taste. If the emperor had the same taste as you, that would be great. As he spoke, Zhang Feng sighed. However, Zhang Feng's exclamation made Li Shimin even more anxious. Are you insulting me? However, Zhang Feng did not give him a chance. He continued, This is a business route that has never been opened before. Now that all of you have a rough idea of what goods each country needs, it's easy to handle. Right now, all of you have seen Chang'an City, Longyu Road, and even the entire Tang Dynasty. How many foreign businesses and goods are there? Not many, right? What does that mean? Everyone thought about it carefully. That was indeed the case. However, this had nothing to do with them. If they were really businessmen, this map might really make them more money than they could spend in at least 300 years. However, they were not businessmen. At this moment, Qing Yaojin, who had been silent all this while, suddenly interrupted. Then according to what you're saying, if this map is really a treasure, then it can be used in other places as well? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard that. Why did Emperor Wu of Han open the Silk Road? Business. However, the most important thing was to open up a channel, a lifeline that connected to the outside world. It was also because of this trade route that everyone knew that the outside world was even wider. That's right. Old Qin, you know me the best. Zhang Feng looked at Qing Yaojin with admiration and said in a low voice, Do you know at that time if Emperor Wu of Han had not died, what would have happened now? Do you know the real purpose of Emperor Wu of Han opening the Silk Road? Chapter 55. What was that? What was Emperor Wu's real purpose for opening up the Silk Road? Everyone was dumbfounded. They really didn't know that. Li Shimin said hesitantly, Is it for the Western expedition? Yes. Zhang Feng gave Li Shimin a thumbs up. Who didn't know the name of Emperor Wu back then? Who didn't know the name of Emperor Wu? At that time the Han Dynasty was still stable, and the Han army didn't stop their iron hooves. They trampled over the Helan Mountains and even fought all the way here. As he spoke, Zhang Feng pointed at the map of Persia and continued, "Do you know why they retreated after conquering Persia?" What? Everyone asked in unison like curious babies. Because they weren't familiar with the map. You may not know this, but from a military standpoint, if you enter an unfamiliar territory, the first task is to investigate and collect map information. However, due to cultural differences and language barriers, Emperor Wu had to send Zhang Qian to the western regions. On the one hand, it was to open up the way of commerce and let the countries in the western regions feel the benevolence of Emperor Wu. On the other hand, the main purpose was to draw this map and use it for the western expedition. Boom. Everyone's mind was filled with a monstrous wave of shock. At the same time, a secret history appeared in everyone's mind. Back then, during Emperor Wu's reign, the Xiongnu were powerful. In order to destroy the Xiongnu, he sent an envoy to the western regions to contact the Dayue clan and the 36 countries in the western regions to resist the Xiongnu together. However, they failed in the end. On the contrary, this road was connected to commerce. Buddhism was also introduced to the Han Dynasty at that time. How did Zhang Feng know all this? This was a secret history that existed in the archives of the Tang Dynasty's palace. No one believed Zhang Feng's calculation. If it could really be calculated, then what was the use of so many historians? However, this map was really important to them. Not to mention the military use of the map, the Tang Dynasty was now in the stage of full recovery. If they had this map at this time, wouldn't it be the first time for the Tang Dynasty to seize an opportunity to win allies? Moreover, if he could start a business at this time, it would really have a great effect on the Tang Dynasty. Li Shimin, Wei Zheng and Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but look at each other. All three of them saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. He nodded subconsciously. Li Shimin asked, "Then why didn't Brother Zhang present this map to His Majesty? If that's the case, then maybe your career will start because of this." Zhang Feng smiled. He wanted it too. However, this damn system hadn't been activated yet, so how could he dare to slip away? Moreover, in the Tang Dynasty, although Li Shimin was spreading the word, this thing, in other words, it still wasn't safe. He didn't know what his system was. What if he was given a starting level of 999? How was he supposed to escape then? How could he go and be carefree? Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry for the time being. The reason why he took out this map now was. It was also because he was paving the way for the future. After half a year of contact with Lao Li and the others, although they were a little unreliable, they were businessmen. On the one hand, they could pave the way for the future. On the other hand, he also needed to earn a living. Whether it was an official or a carefree life, they all needed money. In the end, he wouldn't go to the world with a broken bowl, would he? That was a little bit strange. He thought about it. Zhang Feng shook his head slightly and said mysteriously, "The time is not right. The time is not right." "Brother Zhang, do you also want to learn from Zhuge Kongming? Do you want His Majesty to visit the tavern 3 times and ask you to come out?" Wei Jing joked. Zhang Feng stared. "Is that possible? His Majesty is probably in a terrible fix to deal with the next thing. How could he remember a small fry like me? Let me see. Old Wei, you're a little bit strange." Wei Zheng was stunned. "What's wrong with me? Am I not worried about Brother Zhang's future? A talent like you really shouldn't be buried in this place. And if you really want to go, I do have an acquaintance in the Secretarial Bureau. Not only that, I have a nephew in the clan who is the captain of the Jinwu Guards. If you want to—" "Ahem. Old Wei, that's enough." Li Shimin hurriedly interrupted. He really didn't dare to let Wei Jing meet Zhang Feng alone. If this continued, what would happen? Li Shimin hurriedly changed the topic. "Brother Zhang Feng, we're bored. Why don't we talk about who you are? What do you think of the people in the imperial court today?" Zhang Feng was stunned. They were shocked. He looked at Li Shimin in surprise and asked, "Lao Li, are you drunk? Is this something that a small fry like us dares to talk about?" Zhang Feng was really a little angry. He was really scared after talking about these top figures over and over again. He was afraid that he would be killed before the system could be activated. Zhang Feng shook his head like a rattle drum. "I can't talk about this." Chapter 56. Seeing this, Li Shimin hurriedly kicked Qing Yaojin, who was drinking alone. Qing Yaojin stared blankly for a moment, but then he saw Li Shimin's eyes glancing at Zhang Feng. Hastily he picked up the wine bowl, swaying it back and forth. He roared, "Brother! Come on, I'll drink with you." "Ah, Looking at this rough man and then looking at his heroic appearance when he was drinking, Zhang Feng felt a little guilty at this moment. How good was this guy at drinking? Was this kind of person also a businessman? But he couldn't resist Qing Yaojin's strength. He was about to fall apart. He hurriedly picked up the bowl and said, "Okay. Since you think so highly of me, let's drink." After drinking a bowl, Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng with a smile and said, "Brother, let's talk about it. Otherwise I won't drink at ease. Since you said it's your treat, I have to drink to your spirits." Looking at Qing Yaojin who was pouring wine again, Zhang Feng hurriedly waved his hand. Okay. Old Qin, don't make me drink anymore. Let's talk about it. But you have to give me a guarantee on this matter. This matter can't be spread out. No problem. Old Qin promised not to spread it out. Seeing everyone's guarantee, Zhang Feng looked at Qing Yaojin, smacked his lips and said, "Actually, Old Qin, you really don't look like a businessman." Hearing that, everyone was shocked. Wei Jing went forward and asked, "Why not?" Zhang Feng smiled mysteriously. "Old Qin, give me your hand. I'll read your palm." He could read the palm? Everyone was a little guilty, but most of them thought that Zhang Feng was bragging. Li Shimin couldn't help but use his foot to hint Qing Yaojin. Qing Yaojin handed his hand to Zhang Feng doubtfully. Zhang Feng pretended to look at it, but he really saw something. He couldn't help but ask doubtfully, "Hey, Old Qin, you don't look like a businessman from your palms. Your hand is the hand that handles weapons all year round." Wei Jing was shocked. Li Shimin was shocked. Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked. Qing Yaojin's heart was filled with disdain. Talent? This was AF * King talent. Who else could understand Old Qin better? Only Zhang. The calluses on your hand at least 30 years? How can a businessman have these? Tell me, are you a businessman? From the beginning, Zhang Feng was a little suspicious of whether they were businessmen. But now he was even more suspicious. Which businessman had calluses on their hands? Which businessman always liked to ask questions that could get him killed? Did I meet a group of fake businessmen? Zhang Feng was confused. Hee about that. Qing Yaojin laughed a few times and racked his brains. But in the end, Zhang Sun Wuji sighed helplessly and said, "Brother Zhang, you don't know. Come, look at my hand. Is it the same as Old Qin's?" As he spoke, he waved his hand in front of Zhang Feng's eyes. Although Zhang Feng couldn't see clearly, he still saw some calluses. He couldn't help but be more confused. Then what's going on? Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but let out a deep sigh of relief. Zhang Sun Wuji pretended to be distressed and sighed. "Isn't it because we're poor? A few years ago we were all brothers from the same village. Because we were proud and arrogant, we wanted to take the imperial examinations. However, this fool got drunk and made a scene in the examination room. We had no choice but to be kicked out." Hearing this, Wei Jing continued with tears running down his face, "You only know one thing but you don't know the other. At that time I was already in no doubts. And lost this opportunity, my official career was completely cut off. So we thought about it and decided to do business together. Then, what's going on?" After listening for a long time, Zhang Feng was finally confused by Wei Jing. He pointed at Qing Yaojin's hand and asked, "Didn't I say before that we're in the business of medicinal herbs? We started from medicinal herbs. You know, there were constant wars in those years, so the business of medicinal herbs was the best. Old Qin really didn't know much about business, so he stayed in Longyu Road to do business. And this business, it's 30 years. Yes. Until the last 6 months, because of other business in Chang'an and also because of Old Chen's health, we called him back and let him enjoy life. The few of them were talking back and forth in a daze. She made a lie sound like it was the truth. Even Zhang Feng forgot his original intention. In the end, he picked up his bowl and clinked it with everyone one by one. My brothers, you're all people with stories. I admire people like you the most. Come, let's not talk about the past. Let's not talk about it anymore. Come, let's drink. Alas, Old Qin can't drink. It's been so long, but Brother Zhang Feng still doubts me. Just because I've held a hoe for 30 years, Brother Zhang Feng looks down on me so much? In that case, I'll borrow Brother Zhang Feng's kitchen knife today. Let's chop off my claws to go with the wine. Qing Yaojin also got carried away. He started to show off. As he spoke, he really got up and prepared to go to the kitchen to get the kitchen knife. Zhang Feng was so scared that he quickly hugged Qing Yaojin. Brother, let's talk nicely. Don't use the knife, okay? Actually, if you don't say it, I seriously suspect that you're the brother of Qing Yaojin in the imperial court. He's the person I admire the most. Chapter 57. Hearing this, Qing Yaojin really stopped fooling around. He suddenly turned his head and asked excitedly, Qing Yaojin is a great hero of the present age, a rare divine general, is, cough cough. Li Shimin hurriedly coughed, interrupting Qing Yaojin's boasting. Qing Yaojin hurriedly corrected himself, but, he has nothing to do with me. If I were really his brother, do you think I would play with a hoe for 30 years? Do you think I, old Qin, am stupid? That's true. Zhang Feng nodded. He was just saying that. Qing Yaojin continued to ask smugly, then little brother Zhang, tell me what kind of person is this Qing Yaojin? He is also the person I, old Qin, respect the most in my heart. This person was conferred the title of High Duke Lu. Although in many people's eyes this person is brave but not resourceful, but I think if this person is really so, then he really doesn't deserve to be conferred the title of High Duke Lu. He first defeated Song Jingang, then captured Dou Jianda alive and subdued Wang Shichong. Which one of these didn't need resourcefulness? The world only knows the rough Qing Yaojin, but they don't know that if he is really so rough, how can he fight against these three people? Then how can he be conferred the title of High Duke Lu? Is the emperor blind? Zhang Feng said all that should be said and shouldn't in one breath. Instantly he felt relieved. Who said that Qing Yaojin only knew 3 axes? Who dared to say that Qing Yaojin didn't know strategy and was a fool? He, Zhang Feng, was the first to refuse to accept it. What? Why not? Because Zhang Feng admired this person. Among the 24 meritorious officials of the Lingyan Pavilion, how can there be a coward? How can there be a fool? If you think so, then you are really a fool. All of Qing Yaojin's achievements were achieved through hard work. There was no ambiguity or hypocrisy in his words. Based on the records in the history books, he sincerely felt that old Qing Yaojin was not like a businessman. The calluses on his hands and his personality reminded him of Qing Yaojin. Therefore, when he stopped Qing Yaojin, he casually said that. Fine. Who would have thought that old Qin would worship Qing Yaojin so much? At this moment, the ones who were most shocked were none other than Li Shimin and the others. Although everyone knew about these things and Qing Yaojin's achievements were all due to his axe, it was still not easy to achieve them. On the battlefield he had both courage and strategy. It could be said that whether or not the Tang Dynasty could be established depended on Qing Yaojin. On this point, Li Shimin believed that he absolutely recognized. Little brother Zhang, do you think that the current emperor? Li Shimin glanced and saw that Zhang Feng was praising Qing Yaojin and mentioning him in passing, so he hurriedly asked. However, Zhang Feng picked up the wine bowl and put it to his mouth. Lao Li, I call you brother, so don't trick me. Although there are only a few of us here, what if someone is eavesdropping? That's a crime punishable by death. Little brother, I'm only 20 years old and I haven't even seen the taste of a woman. Can you stop talking about the emperor? Zhang Feng's head was about to explode. This Lao Li was really stubborn. He even dared to do such a thing. But Zhang Feng did not dare. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, Get up. I haven't finished talking about Qing Yaojin. Although Qing Yaojin is a little reckless, it's a big mistake to think that he is a fool. And it's precisely because of his foolishness that he gives people the illusion of foolishness when he fights against the enemy. And Old Wei asked me whether they were sages and I said no. They are indeed not sages. Hearing this, Qing Yaojin couldn't help but ask why he couldn't be considered a sage. But Zhang Feng did not give him a chance to speak. This is because he is one of the rare 3 war gods of the Tang Dynasty. Without him, do you think that the Turks came to sign the Wei River alliance with the Tang Dynasty last time? Ahem. Zhang Feng coughed and said, Mark the main point. These are the 3 war gods, I think, not the official statistics. Hearing this, Li Shimin's face suddenly turned pale. The 3 war gods, Zhang Feng thought. The Wei River alliance has another meaning? Yes, it does have another meaning. Otherwise, do you think the Turks have nothing to do and come to Chang'an City for a tour? Zhang Feng helplessly spread out his hands and said, Yuzhou is guarded by Wei Jing all year round, while Yangzhou is guarded by Zhangsun Wuji and Chang'an City is guarded by Qing Yaojin. If the Turks really dare to attack Chang'an City, they will be wiped out in less than 3 days. So, the Turks came to Chang'an City because they really wanted to attack Chang'an and find out the real military deployment of the Tang Dynasty. Secondly, they finally chose to take a step back after knowing that there were unusual movements in Liangzhou and Yuzhou. And it was because of Qing Yaojin's appearance. The whole tavern suddenly became silent. Everyone was aghast. Qing Yaojin hurriedly asked, Then what does this have to do with Qing Yaojin? He didn't do anything during this time. Yes, Qing Yaojin didn't do anything. At that time, I heard that Qing Yaojin seemed to be standing beside the emperor and was about to rush down with his axe. In the end he was stopped by the emperor. That's right. Zhang Feng patted Wei Zheng's shoulder and sighed. In ancient times, Qing Yaojin retreated thousands of troops with a roar. Now Qing Yaojin's anger deterred the Turks under the city. It was because the Turks saw Qing Yaojin and mistakenly thought that Qing Yaojin's main force was hiding in the city that they retreated. Chapter 58. They were dumbfounded. Everyone was dumbfounded. Is there such a thing? Is he praising old He too much? Zhang Sun Wuji coughed and asked slowly, well, if the Turks retreated because they were afraid of the three gods of war of the Tang Dynasty, why did they sign the Weishui alliance? It's a matter of face. Think about it. You mustered a lot of people to go to their door to ask for money. How could you go back empty-handed? How would you explain it to your little brother? Zhang Feng smacked his lips and bragged again. Actually, how should I put it? Scratching his head, Zhang Feng continued, the three gods of war did play a key role, but it was not because they were afraid, but because they were afraid of the Tang Dynasty's counterattack before death. The Tang Dynasty had just destroyed the Sui Dynasty and established the Tang Dynasty. Its foundation was not stable. Coupled with the change of the Xuanwu Gate, the Turks found the opportunity. If the Tang Dynasty was really weak, it would have been destroyed. The key was that Yuzhou and Liangzhou happened to block the two Turks. Besides, Tuli Khan and Sheli Khan had never been on good terms. If the war was in a stalemate, think about the consequences. That's why I said Qing Yaojin played a crucial role. Good. Haha, I old Qin thinks so too. If it weren't for General Qing. Qing Yaojin was so excited that he let out a long roar. But in the end he was glared at by Li Shimin, and abruptly swallowed back the second half of his sentence. At this time, seeing that Zhang Feng stopped talking about Qing Yaojin, Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang, what do you think of Zhang Sun Wuji? Hearing this, everyone quieted down. Zhang Sun Wuji's identity was a bit special. He was the brother-in-law of the current emperor and a member of Empress Jiangxuan's family. At this moment, what would Zhang Feng say? Zhang Feng touched Zhang Sun Wuji's banknotes in his pocket and smacked his lips. Logically speaking, Zhang Sun Wuji and the current His Majesty are both popular people who have followed His Majesty since the early days of the Qin Emperor. Everyone knows his strength. The reason why I said that he is one of the three gods of war is because of his military strategy. If His Majesty didn't have Zhang Sun Wuji, then the Tang Dynasty wouldn't have been settled so quickly, and it wouldn't have been so easy to fight. Li Shimin fell silent. Indeed. Although Zhang Sun Wuji's personal combat ability was not as good as Qing Yaojin's or Li Jing's, his military command and his analysis of the situation on the battlefield were definitely top-notch. If that wasn't the case, how could he have won by surprise and created the illustrious name of King Qin? However, Li Shimin was also puzzled. Little brother, as far as I know, Yuqi Jingda, Hou Junji and Zhang Gongjin are all top-notch gods of war. Why do you only have the three gods of war in your heart? Li Jing doesn't need to say much. This person's achievements are obvious to all, but everyone was clear in their hearts. Everyone was clear about everyone's battle records and achievements. If there was a god of war list, many people would be able to make it onto the list. But why did he only have the three of them in his heart? Zhang Feng smiled mysteriously. The people you mentioned are indeed gods of war. However, as I said before, this is the ranking of the gods of war in my heart. That's all. He liked them because he liked them. As for the others, more importantly, Zhang Feng wasn't familiar with them. Yuqi Jingda was indeed a famous general, but he knew too little about this person from history. Thus he couldn't make a wrong judgment. That was why he said that it was the god of war list in his heart at the end. However, Zhang Feng's answer made everyone roll their eyes. What kind of god of war list was this? However, Zhang Sun Wuji and Qing Yaojin were really delighted. Including Wei Zheng, who was known as a virtuous official, and Li Shimin, who was once known as the Eternal Emperor. At this moment, the four of them thought about it and didn't feel so bad anymore. However, the mystery of Zhang Feng shocked them once more. What kind of person was Zhang Feng? How much did he know? In fact, everyone's desire to rope in Zhang Feng became even stronger. After that, they chatted for a while. Many people in the court, including those who could be named, were evaluated by Zhang Feng. Just as Zhang Feng stood up unsteadily and was about to light the oil lamp, Li Shimin and the others finally reacted and stood up to leave. However, just as they were about to walk out of the restaurant, Zhang Feng patted his stomach dizzily and said, "Lao Li, I have a business deal here that can make you rich, burp. Do you want to hear it?" He didn't believe that after drinking so much wine, even a deity would have said everything he wanted to say. What kind of business deal could there be? Li Shimin smiled and shook his head. He patted Zhang Feng's shoulder and said, "I don't know what secret brother Zhang wants to share. Just say it." However, Zhang Feng's next words made Li Shimin and the others completely sober. Zhang Feng leaned against the door and said, "Didn't the people from Tubo and Tuyuhun leave? Go back and prepare. They will be back." What? Chapter 59. Li Shimin was shocked. Wei Zheng was shocked. Wei Zheng hurriedly pulled Zhang Feng and asked, "Brother Zhang, do you think Tubo will come back? But didn't you say that they just went back? What's the reason for them to come back?" "You don't know about this, do you?" Zhang Feng lit the oil lamp dizzily and sat on the long chair again. "In fact, their sudden visit this time, didn't you feel absolutely abrupt?" Hearing this, Li Shimin and Wei Zheng looked at each other in horror. "That's right. This time they suddenly came and then left. I also heard about it. It was also because of this that we gathered at the tea stall at the gate of Jingfeng to discuss. Could it be that there is a conspiracy?" "There is no conspiracy. If it's an open conspiracy, I guess there must be." Zhang Feng felt even more dizzy, but he opened his mouth and continued, "Do you remember that I said before that they also encountered a drought? And it was more serious than Long Yu Dao?" "Yes, I remember." Li Shimin's face couldn't help but become solemn. "That's it. Their drought is already out of control." "But," Wei Zheng frowned and said, "I heard from a friend who worked in the palace that at that time, they said that they had worked out a way to solve the drought. Tubo said that if they put the bowl on the ground and covered it with talisman paper, there would be water." This was a talent. They could actually come up with such a method? Zhang Feng was really shocked. The person who could come up with this method was really a genius. But he also understood. When people were desperate, they would definitely come up with something. And the wisdom of ancient people was really strong. That's right. This method is indeed effective, but it can only be regarded as a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. And I guess according to Tubo's custom, this thing is not cheap, right? Li Shimin sighed. "That's right. Our friend said that when they met the emperor, they actually said that they wanted half of Long Yu Dao's land." Zhang Feng slapped his thigh when he heard that. "That's great. If I was there, I would have chopped that person up. He's really asking for too much." "Oh." Everyone's eyes lit up. They hurriedly asked in unison, "Then little brother, you mean, actually, how are they going to solve the drought?" "All right. I've already mentioned this before. Have you forgotten? Was he drunk? The deal I was talking about is also here." Zhang Feng looked at everyone suspiciously. He seriously doubted the intelligence of these people. "Have you forgotten what you just said?" All of you listen carefully. I'll say it again. If you had mastered this method, would you give it to someone who isn't on good terms with you if they came to ask you for a way to deal with the drought? No. Li Shimin's head shook like a rattled drum. "That's it. This definitely won't work. If you're not willing to let others take advantage of you, why would they be so kind as to tell you? You're thinking too much. Actually, their purpose is to wait and see the Tang Dynasty. Now they can't sit still anymore and want to take the initiative to attack. If the Tang Dynasty really doesn't solve the drought, they'll take the opportunity to ask for benefits and make a fortune. However, if the emperor really solves the drought, then they'll have this method, and that's why they left in such a hurry." "What? This?" Everyone was shocked. So, that was their purpose for coming? That wasn't possible, was it? However, everyone's confidence was getting weaker and weaker. Because this happened today, and they only found out about it moments before they met Zhang Feng. All of this had happened too quickly. No one knew what had happened. They didn't even know why they had left. Even now they hadn't thought about it properly. Now that Zhang Feng said it, everyone couldn't help but worry. If what Zhang Feng said was true, then, if the Tubo people returned this time, many things would happen because of this. For example, a war would break out. Although Li Shimin was not afraid of war, this was a critical moment for the Tang Dynasty. He needed a year to let the Tang Dynasty recuperate. And as mentioned before, if the Tubo took action, the Tuyuhun and the Turks would be involved. At that time, the Tang Dynasty, what would happen? Li Shimin's face couldn't help but turn pale. This matter was really a bit tricky. But on second thought, Li Shimin hurriedly asked, Brother Zhang, how do you think this matter can be solved? Zhang Feng gulped down a few mouthfuls of hot tea. After sweating all over, he felt a little better. Looking at the anxious eyes of Li Shimin and the others, he said helplessly, "Do you have to? All right. For the sake of friends, I'll say it like this. Have you made the model of the water wheel I gave you before?" Li Shimin blushed. He had never seen that thing before. As soon as he got it, he immediately sent it to Longyu Road. After that, he only knew that the drought had basically calmed down. Could this be the deal Zhang Feng was talking about? Li Shimin was startled, and his eyes could not help burning. Zhang Feng had mentioned this deal a few times. Could it be that the opportunity had come? Shopkeeper, is this the chance to make a fortune you were talking about? Chapter 60. That's right. Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder. He did not notice the expressions on their faces. He continued, "Like I said before, that's right, the cocoon. That's a good deal too. Have you gotten it yet?" "No." Li Shimin blushed and glared at Wei Zhang. It was all Wei Zhang's doing. Otherwise, Li Shimin's pockets would be bulging. Although he did not know if it would be accepted, it was a good opportunity to make a fortune. "Sigh. That's where you're wrong." Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin's expression and instantly understood. This guy still doesn't believe me? Fine. That matter, you can also start now. Send someone to Longyu Road to spread the news. Say that the Imperial Kitchen of the Imperial Palace has a secret recipe for good health. Not only can it prevent diseases, but it's also very nutritious. It can also slow down aging. If you eat it often, it can prolong your life. This kid is really evil. When Wei Zhang heard that, he immediately labeled Zhang Feng in his heart. Li Shimin seemed to be thinking about it. He said, "Brother Zhang, can this thing really do all these?" "Maybe." Zhang Feng scratched the back of his head. The main ingredients of this thing were protein and amino acids. Eating more of it would definitely strengthen one's body. The poor in this era could not afford meat, right? Then this thing could satisfy all their needs. However, there's one thing I can guarantee. If you eat more of this thing, it can really resist some diseases. But let me tell you a little secret. This thing can nourish the kidneys. Oh, really? Brother Zhang, is what you said true? You're not lying to me, right? Everyone's eyes could not help but light up. Before they heard the name, they only thought that this thing was very delicious. However, when they heard the name, they could not take it anymore. However, now this guy actually said that this thing could strengthen one's body? It could even nourish the kidneys. Everyone couldn't help but start scheming in their hearts. Now that things were peaceful, everyone had started to take care of themselves. As long as they heard that something could nourish and strengthen one's body, everyone would fight over it. Who would have thought that this thing could also work? Seeing the light in everyone's eyes, Zhang Feng smiled faintly and said, "That's right, the cocoon does have such an effect. If you don't believe me, I'll get some for you next time. Try it and eat more and you'll see the effect." "Is that true? Brother Zhang?" Li Shimin grabbed Li Shimin's hand and said excitedly, "You're really the savior of the Tang Dynasty." Cough, cough, seriously, didn't you say that you would give me the secret recipe last time? Hey. I say, Lao Li, you're already thinking about my secret recipe. Zhang Feng smacked his lips speechlessly. Fine. Since I said it last time, I'll give it to you. But you also know the value of this thing. You must not spread it to others. Moreover, you've almost emptied my foundation in the past 6 months. This is unacceptable. In an instant, Zhang Feng's words hit the bottom of everyone's hearts. What did he mean? Li Shimin patted his head and hurriedly reached into his arms to take out the money. But at this moment, Zhang Feng stopped Li Shimin. I say, Lao Li, this isn't good for you, is it? We're brothers, why do we need these superficial things? Do you think that I, Zhang Feng, am so greedy? Or do you think that I'm not a good person? Seeing Zhang Feng like this, Li Shimin was stunned. Then what do you want? As long as you can name it, I, Lao Li, can get it. However, Li Shimin thought for a moment and added, the premise is that I can get it. Fine. Zhang Feng patted the back of his head. This guy's thinking was crooked again. Zhang Feng smiled slyly. I don't want anything, I just want one thing. What thing? I just want you to call me if these things can be sold well in the future and get the Emperor's favor. I have to say that these things were painstakingly researched by me. And that water tank is the same. How about it? Just this. Didn't you already see it for half a year? Everyone thought that Zhang Feng was going to say something mysterious, but in the end he said such a request. Li Shimin breathed a sigh of relief. No problem. This is a small matter. If you're willing, I can take it out now and say that these things were made by you." This request was too easy for Li Shimin. "But there's one more thing. If these two things are sold, we'll split the money 50-50. Zhang Feng added. Although he didn't lack money. But he couldn't guarantee when the system would awaken, and when that time came he couldn't guarantee what it would be. Now he had to lay out everything that he could. But when he thought of this lucrative business deal, Zhang Feng felt a toothache. "That's my most precious treasure. So, you bunch of uncouth people are really lucky. Today these things, if I give them to the emperor, then, can you imagine? How high of an official would he give me?" Seeing Zhang Feng speechlessly muttering, everyone couldn't help but laugh. This time the things that Zhang Feng took out were really good. If they didn't know Zhang Feng and Zhang Feng really presented them, according to Li Shimin's character, he could really just wave his hand and give him a second-grade official. Anyway, for Li Shimin to be able to get such precious things by just doing an idle job, it really wasn't a big deal. In the midst of the chatter, Zhang Feng threw a piece of paper full of words to Li Shimin, feeling very pained. However, Li Shimin was too embarrassed to just take it like that. After pondering for a while, he searched the bodies of Zhang Sun Wuji and the others, piling a large pile of silver notes, or some loose silver ingots and gold ingots on the table. When he saw the dazzling golden light on the table, Zhang Feng waved his hand excitedly. "I still have a few jars of good wine, bring them all back and let the sisters-in-law have a taste, so that you don't have to kneel on the washboard when you go back." Chapter 61. Li Shimin was very excited. At this time, not only was there a piece of calligraphy in his arms, but he was also holding 2 jars of wine in his hands. He couldn't hide the smile on his face at all. Behind him, Wei Zheng and the other 2 were also doing the same. This time Wei Zheng was very emotional. The few days of waiting were really worth it. Otherwise, how could he see the calligraphy in his arms, the map, and the wine in his hands? However, he began to feel puzzled. This was the first time. Before that, Zhang Sun Wuji and Qing Yaojin had accompanied the emperor for so many times. How many benefits did they get? Well, Wei Zheng smacked his lips and stared at the wine in Qing Yaojin and Zhang Sun Wuji's arms. An imperceptible scheme flashed in his eyes. "From tomorrow onwards, I, Old Wei, will eat the rich. If you don't give me a glass of the wine that I have collected before, I will show you the power of Old Wei." Qing Yaojin, who was holding the wine and smiling happily, felt a chill on his back for no reason. He hurriedly turned around only to see Wei Zheng's evil smile. He was so scared that he trembled and held the wine tighter in his hands. "Old Wei, your eyes are a little scary." "Old Qing, I remember that last month because of drinking you seemed to." Seeing that Wei Zheng immediately exposed his shortcomings, Qing Yaojin was furious. He hurriedly jumped back. Li Shimin was also interested. He turned around and asked, "Doesn't he often drink? Why was he beaten by sister-in-law? Or did she chase him out of the brothel with a knife?" Hearing that, everyone broke out in a cold sweat. Damn. Even the emperor knew about this? Seeing that the matter was exposed, Qing Yaojin only wanted to find a hole to hide in. "Emperor. Second brother, how can this be? They don't know me, but don't you know me? This is not a thing." Haha. Hearing that, everyone couldn't help laughing. Taiji Palace. In the imperial study. At this time, Li Shimin called Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui and a few others over. Together with Zhang Sun Wuji, Wei Zheng and Qing Yaojin, they gathered around the desk and carefully studied the map. The more they looked, the more shocked they became. "Your Majesty, this map, how did you get it?" Fang Xianling asked almost at the same time as Li Jing. Li Shimin smiled mysteriously. "You don't have to worry about that. What do you think of this map? How is it?" "Your Majesty, what are you saying?" Du Ruhui excitedly pushed Fang Xianling away. He was so excited that even his white beard was trembling. "This is a brand new map of the western regions that we have never seen before. Although the drawing is very rough, the general layout and the mountains and rivers are marked out. In fact, take a look at this." Li Jing excitedly pointed at a place beside Dashi country and said, "Look here, this is Tokaria. Even I have only heard of this country, but I have never seen it before." "May I know who created this map?" Tokaria was a small country. Moreover, it was a country sandwiched between Dashi country and the Western Turks. Very few people knew about this country. However, although this country was small, it was extremely important in terms of military status. This was the reason why this country existed until now. "Your Majesty, I have a presumptuous request. Thinking of this, Li Jing got down on one knee and said excitedly, "At this time, according to this map, I am willing to lead 100,000 soldiers and completely open the western gate of the western regions. Let Tubo and the Western Turks have no advantage over the Tang Dynasty." Hearing this, Li Shimin was shocked. He even raised his hand. However, after thinking about it, he slowly put down his hand. "I know what you are thinking. But now is not the time. We have to wait for the drought and the locust plague to end." "Your Majesty," Li Jing wanted to say something. Wei Jing interrupted him and said, "General Li, let's talk about this later. You know the situation of the Tang Dynasty now. If we really go to war, it will only put the Tang Dynasty in a difficult situation. Now that we have this map, it won't be too late for us to send troops after this year." "Your Majesty, that thing is done." At this time, a little eunuch reported in fear. Li Shimin heard this and waved his hand. "Bring it up. Come. Everyone, let's not talk about this. How about we talk while eating? This time I will treat you to something good. Someone come. Bring up 10 jars of my imperial wine. I want to get drunk tonight." Hearing this, Wei Jing and the others were eager to give it a try. However, Fang Xianling and the others were stunned. What was going on? But while everyone was puzzled and expectant, the palace maids came slowly with exquisite white jade plates. However, the palace maids seemed to be extremely well behaved at this time. Their heads were far away as if they couldn't even smell the things on the plates. What was going on? Fang Xianling and the others were even more confused. They saw the palace maids set up a square table in the middle of the imperial study according to the layout of a small tavern. Then they put a few sets of bowls and chopsticks on the table and opened the lids of the white jade plates. The next moment, the grilled golden things about the size of a thumb were lying quietly on the plates. Waves of tempting fragrance instantly rushed to their faces. Li Shimin saw this and couldn't help but want to eat. Come. Don't be shy. This is a rare good thing." Chapter 62. Your Majesty, this thing, Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui had eaten it once before. When they saw it this time, their faces instantly turned green. When Fang Xianling spoke with a trembling voice, Qing Yaojin, Zhang Sun Wuji, and even Wei Zheng and the emperor threw away their chopsticks. They grabbed one and put it into their mouths. In the next moment, a series of crunching sounds could be heard. Everyone was eating happily. Li Shimin saw that Li Jing didn't know whether to sit or not, and then looked at Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui who were holding back their vomiting. He said doubtfully, "My 3 beloved ministers, this is a rare good thing. Why don't you try it?" Seeing this, Li Jing clasped his fist and imitated Qing Yaojin. However, he didn't dare to use his hands. He picked up one with his chopsticks and threw it into his mouth. But the next moment, Li Jing's eyes suddenly widened. Then he threw away the exquisite jade chopsticks in his hand and couldn't help but grab the food and eat. Although he didn't know what this thing was. It was wrapped in a layer of flour, but it was too fragrant. Coupled with the unique fried taste, God, it couldn't be too delicious. Li Jing was a straightforward person, but he was too reserved and followed the rules too much. But at this moment he completely let go. Although it was almost 1 plate per person, Qing Yaojin and Zhang Sun Wuji actually took 3 plates each. How could this be? "Beloved Minister Fang, beloved Minister Du, why aren't you eating? Could it be right?" Li Shimin suddenly understood why the two of them were like this. He patted his forehead with his greasy hand and said with a smile, "I know why you are like this. I'm like this too. But today I know that this thing can not only strengthen the body but also nourish the body. It has the function of prolonging life." While talking, Li Shimin whispered, "This thing can nourish the kidney." What? Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui were shocked. Their bodies were deteriorating day by day. Although His Majesty had bestowed them with countless tonics, the effect was minimal. Their families had also followed them everywhere to inquire about tonics that could strengthen their bodies. They had even gone to the temple to pray to God, but they still could not stop their physical fitness from deteriorating. Every time the season changed, the two of them would definitely fall seriously ill. But this time, the emperor actually said that this thing was very nourishing, could also prolong life, and nourish the kidney. Hearing this, the two couldn't sit. Qing, this is given to me. Your brother is an idiot, why are you? This is mine. Your Majesty, look at Lord Wei. How can he eat like this? Everyone was eating happily. They didn't even drink wine. This was because after drinking Zhang Feng's wine, most of the people here no longer had much interest in other wines. Moreover, how could they dare to drink such a great tonic? Therefore, the imperial wine, which had been favored before, could only stay in the corner and become a decoration. My dear ministers, what do you think of this thing? Wonderful. Your Majesty, although this is the first time I've eaten this thing is wonderful. I've eaten tiger meat and swallowed a python alive, but I don't know what this thing is. May I ask your Majesty, what is this thing? I want to bring some back for my wife and young son to try. Ha ha ha. Seeing Li Jing like this, everyone burst into laughter. However, no one dared to say it. If anyone said it out loud, except for the emperor, no one would be able to avoid being beaten up by the furious Li Jing. At this time, Li Shimin also wanted more. He smacked his lips and said, My dear ministers, how did you eat today? If it's possible. Your Majesty, this old official can still eat another gene. The trembling Fang Xianling interrupted Li Shimin and said, If this thing could nourish the kidney, then he had to eat more. Your Majesty, I also think that my body, so I can still eat some of this thing. Your Majesty, I can still eat 3 gene. The same goes for me. Everyone also shouted. Good, good, good. Li Shimin opened his hands and motioned for everyone to calm down. Then he shouted, Guards, why don't you serve the prepared cocoon? What? Your Majesty, you said, this is a worm? Li Jing collapsed. His face turned green. He turned around, squatted in the corner and vomited. No wonder those palace maids avoided it. This was a great humiliation. The great general of the Tang Dynasty actually ate worms? The emperor and a group of dukes hid in the imperial study to eat worms? What kind of scandal was this? Li Jing collapsed. However, the crowd behind him burst into laughter. Even Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui, who vomited miserably last time, were laughing so hard that their beards were trembling. In the end, Zhang Sun Wuji stepped forward, squatted beside Li Jing, patted him on the shoulder and explained, Your Excellency Li Jing, didn't you ask who made the map? Seeing Li Jing's doubtful gaze, Zhang Sun Wuji smiled mysteriously. He pointed at the pupa that was just served on the table and said, Look, the great tonic on the table was made by the same person as the map. Do you think that the emperor will joke with his life? Do you think that His Excellency Wei Zheng will let the emperor fool around? Chapter 63. Li Jing was dumbfounded. Seeing that everyone at the table was engrossed in eating again, Zhang Sun Wuji whispered in his ear, You'll know if this thing is a great tonic when you try it tonight. Can't you see it? While they were talking, Zhang Sun Wuji joined the battle again. Li Jing was stunned for a moment. He resisted the urge to vomit, closed his eyes and ate again. Damn it, even the emperor can eat it, why can't I? And Lord Zhang Sun was right. If this thing was really useless, then even if that person was a rare genius, Lao Tzu would tie him up tomorrow. Thinking of this, Li Jing closed his eyes and ate as if he was on the battlefield. He ate even more ferociously than anyone else. After 3 rounds of wine, the palace maids removed the wine and dishes, replaced them with the fragrant tea bestowed by the emperor, and tasted it carefully. How is it? How does it taste? Li Shimin asked lightly. Do you think this thing can really be turned into a treasure if we do as shopkeeper Zhang said? At this moment, back to the main topic. Everyone's expression turned solemn. This thing was wrapped in flour at this time. No one knew what it was, let alone anything else. They could accept it, let alone outsiders. Wei Jing thought about it and said, Your Majesty, I think the shopkeeper's method is really feasible. At this time, Longyu Road is short of food, and the economy is declining. If this thing is put in, it will definitely stimulate the economy, let the people eat their fill and also have a little income. At this point, Wei Zheng's eyes flashed. If we really want to spread this thing to Tubo and Tuyuhun, and we deliberately publicize it, then, this is really a good deal. But, the premise is that what the shopkeeper said can be true. During the meal, Li Shimin and the others told everyone what had happened before. So, at this time, everyone frowned and fell into deep thought. Du Ruhui thought for a while and said hesitantly, Your Majesty, if the envoys of Tubo and Tuyuhun don't come, or if this matter is guessed by the shopkeeper, then, what should we do? I've thought about this matter. If they don't come, we'll create an opportunity for them to come. How about it? Wei Zheng's eyes suddenly lit up and asked. Didn't the shopkeeper say that if we want to publicize it, then let all the soldiers in Longyu Road spread this matter to me? Spread it to the god. That's right. Zhang Sun Wuji slapped his thigh and said, If we create a god and say that this is the guidance of the god, a gift from the god to prolong one's life, Then if we invite eminent monks and respected Taoists to perform rituals and preach the Tao, then the effect will be. Not only that. We can also do this. At this time, if we treat all the things we ate tonight as gifts from the God and give them away, then, even if this matter is fake, it will still be true. Once that happens, even if we don't deliberately spread it, we can send some businessmen to buy and sell wantonly. In this way it will become a new economic cycle. In this way, even if Tubo and Tuyuhun have spies, they will only exaggerate this matter and spread it to all the places that are already short of clothes and food. At that time, even if they don't want to come, it's too late. At this time, the few high-ranking officials of the Tang dynasty burst into laughter from time to time in Li Shimin's imperial study. The little eunuch outside the imperial study trembled all over when he heard it. So, the emperor and the officials were such people. But, even so, everything that had happened here had spread throughout the palace at the fastest speed. Somewhere in the palace where the eunuchs rested, a little eunuch quietly appeared in the room with a lantern. As soon as he entered the room, the little eunuch excitedly spread the news. Hey little do you know that the emperor just invited the dukes to a banquet? I know about this. What's the big deal? Hey, you don't know. The emperor was eating a mythical worm just now. What? It's true, it's a real mythical worm. I heard it loud and clear. Even His Majesty and the other officials were fighting over it. This can't be true, right? Why would I lie to you? Moreover, the emperor said that eating this mythical worm can prolong one's life and increase one's lifespan. What? No. I have to tell this to the director. Not only were the eunuchs spreading the news. At this time, even the palace maids and imperial chefs were telling about this strange matter. This matter became more and more popular. In the end, no one knew what it became. Deep in the harem, outside the bedroom of Empress Zhangsun. Little Chen, do you know? Just now, the emperor invited the dukes to a banquet. Do you know what they are eating? Another timid voice whispered, What are they eating? Golden elixir. Yes. Immortality. The whispering of the two palace maids who were changing shifts attracted the attention of Empress Zhangsun, who was reading a book. Empress Zhangsun was shocked and hurriedly called, Little Huan, what's going on outside? You said that the emperor is eating golden elixir? What's going on? Chapter 64. As the news spread, it became more and more ferocious. In a moment, the news that the emperor was eating the golden elixir was known to everyone in the palace. At this moment, in the corridor outside the imperial study, suddenly the sound of singing could be heard. The empress has arrived. As the voice sounded, the big shots in the imperial study suddenly sobered up. Why is the empress here? At this moment, the empress is here. The ministers were shocked. They hurriedly got up and left. Your Majesty, we won't disturb you any longer. We will take our leave. But at this moment, Empress Zhangsun walked into the imperial study with a cold face. After greeting the high dukes, she stared straight at Li Shimin. At first Li Shimin felt good. In front of Empress Zhangsun he bragged and bragged. However, as he spoke, he gradually felt a sense of uneasiness. Empress Zhangsun did not say a word. She just stared straight at him with cold eyes. Li Shimin could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. He quickly changed the topic and said, Guanyin maid, I got a treasure today. Guess what it is? Oh yes, Guanyin maid, come and take a look. I got a good poem today. Leaning against the railing in anger, the drizzling rain stops. Looking up, I roar to the sky, my heart is full of vigor. 30 achievements in the dust, 8,000 miles of cloud and moon. Don't be idle, my young years have turned white, empty and sorrowful. No matter how Li Shimin tried to find a topic, Empress Zhangsun did not say a word. She sat there with a cold face and stared straight at Li Shimin. In the end, Li Shimin got goosebumps from being stared at. Guanyin maid, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell? Someone. Summon the imperial physician. Li Shimin was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly wanted to summon the imperial physician. Your Majesty really has good eyesight. You can tell at a glance that I'm not feeling well? In this world there is really such an elixir. Can it really be immortal? Good eyesight? Elixir? Immortal? Wait a minute. Li Shimin felt a little smug at first. But the more they listened, the more they felt that there was something wrong with Guanyin's words. How was this a compliment? This was simply a way to humiliate him. Guanyin maid, what is the elixir you're talking about? Emperor. The Guanyin maid began to sob softly. This concubine knows your pain and difficulties, but you should know that you are the emperor. What kind of consequences will your every action have? Just now, this concubine learned that His Majesty is actually eating an immortal pill? Do you know what I was thinking at that time? What do you mean by eating elixirs? Is it the person who doesn't want to talk nonsense? Li Shimin finally understood. She hurriedly comforted her. Maid Guanyin, come, don't cry. I'll tell you slowly. How could there be something like an immortal pill in this world? Even if there was, do you think I would eat it? Actually, it's all a misconception. Do you know that I once told you that there was a shopkeeper who once gave me a way to control the plague of locusts? Today he mentioned it again, and guess what? He said that it is not only very nutritious, it can also strengthen one's body, slow down aging, and have the effect of prolonging one's life. He even gave me the secret of cooking it. Thinking of Zhang Feng's pained expression at that time, Li Shimin couldn't help but laugh and said, "Do you know how pained he was at that time? But I know that you've always been in poor health, so I thought that I should try more of it this time. If it really has such an effect, I'll use it on Maid Guanyin." Sigh. Li Shimin pretended to sigh sadly. It's a pity that these stupid palace servants didn't spread such rumors and made Maid Guanyin worried. Li Shimin explained for a long time, spitting saliva everywhere. Finally, Empress Jiangxuan's expression slowly eased. She asked with a serious face, "Second brother, are you sure this is the egg of the locusts? You actually eat worms?" Maid Guanyin, I know what you want to say, but I'm the emperor and I have to set an example. And to be honest, this thing is really delicious. Come on. Make a separate serving of the deep-fried worm pupae that we ate earlier. Yes. Li Shimin waved his hand and ordered someone to do it directly. At this time, Empress Jiangxuan's face turned pale. No, second brother, listen to me. Empress Jiangxun was anxious. Originally, he had come to ask what the emperor was thinking about such an absurd thing. He actually wanted to do this. But after Li Shimin opened his mouth, he couldn't say anything even if he wanted to. The emperor actually wanted her to eat worms. Empress Jiangxun was so angry that she turned her head away fiercely and didn't look at Li Shimin anymore. Li Shimin was also at a loss for words at this time, so he had to explain patiently. Maid Guanyin, I know this is wrong, but as the emperor of the Tang Dynasty, I have to set an example. And one more thing, this is the second time I've eaten this thing and it tastes really good. This worm is the key to deal with the drought and tubo. And you know what? If we make this thing well, I have a strong feeling that this time Tubo and Tuyuhun will be firmly tied to the Tang Dynasty. What? Can this kind of worm really solve the drought and Tubo's crisis? Empress Jiangxun was shocked. How could this little worm do this? Was it really like what the emperor said? Otherwise, why would the emperor and the ministers hide in the imperial study and eat this worm? Did I misunderstand, second brother? At this time, the palace maid tilted her head and slowly appeared in the imperial study with two exquisite white marble plates in her hands. Seeing this, Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "Bring the wine I just brought back. I want to drink with the empress tonight." Hearing this, the palace maid's face suddenly turned pale. Oh my god. The emperor wants to eat worms with the empress? Chapter 65. In the afternoon. In the imperial study. Empress Jiangxun frowned and her cheeks were slightly red. So, this Zhang Feng is really an extraordinary person? Yes. Li Shimin couldn't help but let out a deep sigh of relief. This meal lasted for at least 2 hours. In these 2 hours, Li Shimin told the story of how he met Zhang Feng and how he became old Li. He told them everything in detail. At this time, on the table in the imperial study, a jar of wine had been emptied, and 2 large plates of fried cicada pupae had been swept clean. Li Shimin was still talking about Zhang Feng's deeds. Guanyin maid, you don't know. Brother Zhang Feng is such a genius. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't know how to deal with the drought in Longyu Road and what happened after the drought. Hearing Li Shimin say so, Empress Jiangxun was stunned. This was the first time she had heard her second brother continuously praise someone. Moreover, it had been continuously for 2 hours without repeating a single sentence. Empress Jiangxun covered her mouth and chuckled. Second brother, could it be that your tone and manner of speaking seem to have been learned from that Zhang Feng? Li Shimin was stunned. Guanyin maid, why do you say this? I can feel that ever since Shelly came to the Wei River your personality has changed and you're a bit dejected. However, half a year ago your dejection seemed to have slowly disappeared. Could it be that you didn't notice? Li Shimin was shocked. Did he? Empress Jiangxun got up and pressed Li Shimin on the chair. She massaged his shoulders and said, Second brother, do you know? After the Wei River, all of the great Tang was in turmoil, but in the last half a year your personality has suddenly changed. You've become more cheerful and you've become very cocky. Guanyin maid, what are you saying? Am I that kind of person? Li Shimin touched Jiang Xuan's hand and said, but he couldn't help but feel a little smug in his heart. Empress Jiang Sun smiled. Do you know? It is also because of your changes in the past 6 months that the originally unstable Tang dynasty has gradually stabilized. I used to think that it was because I was inspired by heaven by praying to Buddha, but now I understand that all of this is really because of heaven's inspiration. He bestowed brother Zhang Feng from the Tang dynasty. That's why he solved the crisis in Longyu Circuit and predicted the situation in Tubo and other countries, as well as what the Tang dynasty can deal with now. Second brother, haven't you realized that this man is really the lucky general of the Tang dynasty? Li Shimin nodded and said emotionally, the one who knows me best is Guanyin maid. I think so too, but I invited him time and time again, but this brat actually thinks that the official position of the person I know is too low, and he is not willing to be a small official. And he always refuses on the grounds that the time is not right. Speaking of this, Li Shimin couldn't help but laugh again. Then why don't you take this opportunity to directly tell him your identity? It's useless. Li Shimin shook his head. If it was possible, why did he have to pretend to be Lao Li in the past 6 months? The palace gate was as deep as the sea. Although the Tang dynasty had a smooth journey, no one knew that the struggle between the civil and military officials had always been there. Li Shimin also wanted to invite him to the palace at this time, but if he didn't do it willingly, wouldn't he fall behind and be criticized by all the civil and military officials in the court? There was another reason. This was the most important one. Li Shimin didn't want to take the initiative to break the current situation. He lacked friends. Zhang Feng really regarded him as a friend. He cherished it very much. If he had a showdown, it would be equivalent to turning from a friend to a minister. Therefore, Li Shimin had many opportunities to block this matter. He was afraid. Second brother, such a virtuous talent, and he is so clear and sharp about the structure of the Tang dynasty, such a young man, why don't? Hearing Jiang Xuan's words, Li Shimin was instantly overjoyed and hurriedly asked, Guanyin maid, do you have any good ideas? Quickly tell me. As he spoke, Li Shimin hurriedly got up and hugged Jiang Xuan's slender waist. Empress Jiang Sun blushed and snorted, Second brother, why don't you let Qin follow that young shopkeeper? This. Li Shimin wanted to refuse, but suddenly his eyes flashed with excitement. He hugged Empress Jiang Sun tightly and spun her around twice. He laughed and said, Ha, you're really my good Guanyin maid. This is a wonderful idea. Tomorrow I'll order Qin to bring the gift to the small tavern. Brother Zhang Feng has done so many things for me. Although this is a great achievement, it can't stop people from gossiping. However, if he becomes the crown prince's teacher, then it's a different story. Empress Jiang Sun struggled and broke free from Li Shimin's embrace. She said, Not only that, didn't you say that the young shopkeeper is only about 20 years old? At this age he's similar to Qian and the others. I think if Qin Ke, Quan and Jir go together, what do you think? This, I see. Isn't this a little inappropriate? Li Shimin was a little hesitant. Empress Jiang Sun rolled her eyes at Li Shimin. Why do you think that little brother Zhang Feng is cooped up in the tavern all day long? He lacks playmates. If Cheng Qian goes alone, not only will he not be able to stop people from gossiping, he will also be criticized by His Majesty for making the crown prince take the shopkeeper as his teacher. Do you think this is appropriate? However, if they go together and say that they're playmates, then the officials will have nothing to say. That's right. Ha ha ha. Li Shimin stared at Empress Jiang Sun with a red face. He slowly leaned forward and said, The one who knows me is Guanyin maid. Chapter 66. After the morning court the next day, Li Shimin stopped Du Ruhui with a heavy heart. In the corner of the royal garden, Li Shimin asked, My dear minister, there's something that I'm not sure about. Please help me make a decision, but you have to keep it a secret for me. Du Ruhui hurriedly kowtowed and said, Your Majesty, you know this old official's character. Your Majesty, please tell me. If this old official can help, this old official will definitely sacrifice his life. All right. Li Shimin hurriedly interrupted Du Ruhui. It's like this. Last night, Zhen and Empress Jiang Sun discussed the issue of the little shopkeeper's whereabouts. You see, the little shopkeeper helped Zhen resolve the current predicament. Logically speaking, Zhen should reward him. but because of some matters, Zhen can't lay the cards on the table for the time being. So, I want to bring the crown prince, Qing Ke Erjier, and Quan to meet the shopkeeper and make friends with him. What do you think? This matter has nothing to do with the court. I just want to let the young people move around more. What do you think? If you think it's feasible, I have something for you to do. This? Du Ruhui blinked and instantly understood the emperor's meaning. He thought that something big had happened, which was why the emperor called him here alone with such a heavy heart. So it was because of this. Although he had never met the little shopkeeper, he had at least heard of his magnificent achievements. He was an unparalleled talent. If that was the case, it would be very beneficial for the future successor of the Tang Dynasty. Wait. The emperor saw that I was honest, so he went behind Zhang Sun Wuji's back. If that's the case, the emperor thought. Thinking of this, Du Ruhui understood. He hurriedly said, Your Majesty, don't worry about this matter. This old official will definitely get it done for you. However, this old official has a presumptuous request. You know that this old official's health is deteriorating day by day, but my son Du Zheng. Li Shimin's face darkened. This old man usually looked so honest, but it turned out that he was just pretending. However, Li Shimin had no choice but to say, Fine. Zhen will approve of this matter, but you have to promise not to spread it out. What do you think? Hearing this, Du Ruhui was so excited that his beard was trembling. He hurriedly knelt on the ground to express his gratitude. Li Shimin continued, Do you think that if the ministers of the court were to find out about this, there would be criticism? In the end, Li Shimin asked the question that worried him the most. This was what he was most worried about. Now, the battle between the civil and military officials was getting more and more intense. However, Li Shimin was still a little worried if this matter were to emerge at this critical juncture. Du Ruhui stroked his beard and shook his head as he thought about it. Then he said, This old subject thinks that there is nothing wrong with this. You just have to pretend that you don't know about it. Besides, young people like to play. It's just one more playmate, so there won't be any big trouble. However, for this matter, Your Majesty must not personally send the crown prince and the others there. Li Shimin was stunned and hurriedly asked, Why? If Your Majesty shows up, won't the nature of this matter change? At that time, it will become an imperial order. In this case, what do you think? Hearing this, Li Shimin's back couldn't help but be soaked in cold sweat. Then do you have a solution? Your Majesty only needs to tell this old official the location of the inn, this old official. Or you can also tell the crown prince. If it really doesn't work, you can ask Lord Qing to send it over. Du Ruhui originally wanted to tell him the location of the inn, but seeing Li Shimin's unhappy face, he couldn't help but worry. He waved his hand and said, You can leave first. This matter, Zhen needs to think about it carefully. Du Ruhui's eyes turned and hurriedly cupped his fist and said, Then this old official will take his leave. Out of the imperial palace. The more Du Ruhui thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Why didn't the emperor find someone else for this matter, but him? Zhang Sun Wuji or Qing Yaojin or even Wei Zheng. But why did he find me? Oh. His Majesty must know that no matter who he found, there would be someone who would send his son to the inn to accompany the crown prince to study. So, the emperor was deciding on the crown prince's tutor? Yes. After understanding this point, Du Ruhui could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was a big deal. Although Zhang Feng hadn't seen this person before, he could be so resourceful and so young. Then in the future, Yo, isn't this Lord Du? Lord Du, you are. Unknowingly, Du Ruhui walked to the gate of Zhang Sun Wuji's mansion while thinking. Coincidentally, Zhang Sun Wuji saw him. Seeing Zhang Sun Wuji coming, Du Ruhui cupped his fist and looked around saying, Lord Zhang Sun, are you waiting for me? Lord Du, what are you talking about? How could I not be waiting for you? Let's go. A few days ago, I got a jar of good wine from Zhang Feng's store. Today, Lord Du, please taste it. Knowing that there was good wine, Du Ruhui's ears pricked up. Entering the house, he saw that there was a table full of wine and dishes. This caused Du Ruhui to be even more suspicious. Zhang Sun Wuji, this old fox, really had something to do with him. After sitting down, Zhang Sun Wuji personally poured a bowl of wine for Du Ruhui and then asked with a smile, Lord Du, I wonder why the emperor is looking for you today for Zhang Feng from the inn? Chapter 67. Du Ruhui knew that this banquet was a trap. But what could he do now? Du Ruhui smelled the alluring wine in the cup and nodded his head heavily. That's right. Today, His Majesty summoned me for Zhang Feng. Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes lit up and he quickly bumped into Du Ruhui. He knew that His Majesty would definitely do something behind their backs. This Zhang Feng, everyone was envious of him. Right now they were all secretly competing with each other. In fact, Zhang Sun Wuji knew that regardless of him or the others, they were all waiting for Du Ruhui. Brother Du, what did His Majesty say today? Is he going to issue an imperial edict for Zhang Feng to enter the palace? No. When Du Ruhui saw Zhang Sun Wuji, he knew that he couldn't keep the matter today. He simply raised his head and gulped down a bowl of wine. He smacked his lips and said, "Today His Majesty summoned me not to ask Zhang Feng to enter the palace, but what? Tell me quickly." Zhang Sun Wuji was so anxious that he was about to cry. His Majesty wants Crown Prince, Second Prince Li Ji, Third Prince Li Quan, and Fourth Prince Li Tai to be sent to the tavern to learn from Zhang Feng. What? Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked. Send Crown Prince and Third Prince to the tavern to learn from Zhang Feng? His Majesty said that Zhang Feng needs playmates and they are about the same age as Crown Prince and Third Prince, so he wants them to build a good relationship and learn from Zhang Feng in the process of governing a country. Zhang Sun Wuji patted his head and woke up. That's right. At this time, everyone was staring at Zhang Feng. If the younger generation was sent to the tavern, then, wouldn't that solve the problem perfectly? Then Zhang Sun Wuji carefully pondered over his son in his mind. Suddenly he said, "Official Du, do you think my son Chong'er if—" Stop. Du Ruhui's face darkened. That stubborn son of yours, do you want to destroy the future pillar of the Tang Dynasty? If you send Zhang Sun over, do you believe that I will immediately inform the emperor? Du Ruhui exploded. Zhang Sun charge. They were famous for their stubbornness in Chang and city. If they led the crown prince and the others astray, wouldn't Du Ruhui be guilty? He couldn't afford to be the scapegoat. Thinking of this, Du Ruhui shook his head like a rattle drum. No. There was no room for discussion. His Majesty didn't say that he wanted to accompany you. If you want, you can go and tell His Majesty yourself. But don't say that I was here. And don't say that I was here either. His Majesty hasn't decided on this matter yet. You go and ask His Majesty. Before he finished speaking, Du Ruhui hurriedly left Zhang Sun Wuji's house. Zhang Sun Wuji was stunned by this scene. What the hell was going on? Wasn't it just a chat? Did he have to be so serious? But Zhang Sun Wuji looked at the dishes on the table and waved his hand, saying, "Quickly go and invite Duke Zheng, Duke Wei, Duke Liang, Duke Lu, and the others to come to my residence for a banquet. Tell them that there is news about the tavern." Then Zhang Sun Wuji's servant hurriedly left. In less than 2 hours all the dukes hurried over. "Zhang Sun, what is the meaning of this?" When everyone arrived, Wei Zheng looked at the leisurely Zhang Sun Wuji and asked hurriedly, don't be anxious. Everyone please take a seat. I called you here today because I have something to discuss with you. It's like this." After that, Zhang Sun Wuji told Du Ruhui about what the emperor had told him, adding some details to it. At this moment, everyone finally understood. Why was Zhang Sun Wuji so calm now? It seemed that this guy had already made up his mind. This is no small matter. And His Majesty is being too childish by doing this. Wei Zheng will be the first to disagree. Wei Zheng slammed the table angrily and said. Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji's eyelids twitched. "Brother Wei, what do you mean? Do you think that the innkeeper's way of governing the country is not suitable for His Highness the Crown Prince? It's not like that. On the contrary, if the Crown Prince can receive little brother Zhang Feng's guidance, then he will undergo a qualitative transformation in the shortest time possible. But did you ask for little brother's opinion? If the people in the imperial court know about this, what should we do? If His Majesty really thinks that little brother Zhang is too idle, then tell old man me. That's great, I admire little brother Zhang Feng's talent and learning. I'm willing to share His Majesty's worries. Don't. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly tried to persuade Wei Zheng. I say, old Wei, this is the compromise that His Majesty came up with. Can't you think about His Majesty's painstaking efforts first? If we old bones of this generation were to take him as a disciple, then wouldn't we become a laughing stock? His Majesty intends to cultivate the next generation. Moreover, His Majesty only mentioned this briefly and is still considering it. If you do anything out of line, His Majesty will be dissatisfied. Wei Zheng, although His Majesty has already ordered you to be an official who remonstrates with the Crown Prince, you have to think about this carefully. If the officials in the imperial court know about this, then... Seeing this, Wei Zheng smiled faintly and said, It's not like there's no way to solve this matter. What solution? Zhang Sun Wuji's eyelids twitched. Looking at Wei Zhang's smile, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Let my son Wei Shiyu go with him. Chapter 68. No. Absolutely not. What a joke. Good for you, old man Wei. So, after all that talk, it was all for this matter? So, you're this kind of person. Wretched. Despicable. Despicable. Shameless. Everyone instantly understood Wei Zhang's purpose. They couldn't help but curse. In the end, Zhang Sun Wuji slapped his thigh angrily and said, "Since Wei Zhang's son can go, then I'll let my son Zhang Sun Chong go too." You. Zhang Sun Wuji. Don't you have any shame? Don't you know what kind of person your son is? He's famous for being stubborn in Chang'an City. Do you think you want to hurt the crown prince or hurt brother Zhang Feng by doing this? This is a very serious question. Fang Xianling shouted angrily, which instantly silenced everyone. He continued, "Well, since things have come to this, let's talk about it. The crown prince's participation hasn't been decided yet, so the protection work also needs to. Protection? Wait, old man Fang, do you still remember my son, Chimo, from the Qing family? You all know how strong he is. Since old man Fang mentioned protection, then I think my Chimo should be the first choice." Hey. Hey, you're a boorish man. Do I, Zhang Sun Wuji, have no status in your eyes? I, Zhang Sun Wuji, used to be from a family of generals, and my son, Chong, was known as the rare genius of the Zhang Sun family in 100 years. You only think that my son is stubborn, but you know how hard he works? If that's the case, my son can also be counted in. My son can go too. No. This is not something we can talk about here. The emperor has his own arrangements. Get out of here. If you don't want your son to learn the art of war, I'll beg you. I'll let my Qing Chuheo go too. Old Hey, do you have any shame? Everyone's faces turned red from arguing over this matter. After arguing for a full 4 hours, they still hadn't come to a conclusion. However, everyone was certain that regardless of whether the emperor was willing or not, even if he had to be shameless, he would still send his son to the tavern. At this moment, however, an extremely good thing happened in Longyu Road. At this time, a Taoist priest of virtue and prestige set up an altar in Longyu Dao to save the common people. Amidst the yellow sand, the Taoist priest dressed in linen robes had been sitting on the altar for 3 whole days. At this time, a group of people had gathered around the altar and were discussing fervently. Is this Taoist priest really an immortal? Sitting here for 3 days without a drop of water, even the strongest of us would have died of thirst. You guys don't know, right? This man is a master of Wudong Mountain. Not to mention 3 days, even if he doesn't eat or drink for 30 days, it wouldn't be a problem. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Was there really such a thing? The person who had spoken earlier spoke with fervor and assurance. You guys don't know, right? I've heard that the emperor has sensed the heavens and found a way to solve the drought. This water wheel is a kind of solution, but our famine hasn't really been solved yet. I heard that the emperor found a kind of treasure that the heavens have given us under the yellow sand that can prolong our lives. However, at this moment, an imperceptible smile flashed across the Taoist priest's face. Then he stood up. He shouted, "Heaven and earth, the mysterious heavenly Tao. Ziwei divinity, help the Tang Dynasty." As he spoke, the Taoist priest's sword flew in the air, writing and drawing in the air as he muttered. This action made everyone hurriedly shut their mouths and stare at the Taoist priest. After a quarter of an hour, the Taoist priest grabbed a handful of grains from the altar and scattered them in the air. Then he jumped down from the altar and shouted angrily, "Sword!" The next moment, a young Taoist priest on the side hurriedly pulled out a shining golden sword and threw it to the Taoist priest. Then the Taoist priest stepped on the Tai Chi 8 trigrams and circled around in the same place 3 times. Then his eyes suddenly opened. He raised the long sword high and stabbed it into the ground. Then the Taoist priest sat cross-legged and muttered even more urgently. At this moment, the young Taoist priest hurriedly dug out the soil in front of the Taoist priest where the sword was inserted. Brown, thumb-sized cocoons leaked out. The moment these cocoons appeared, the Taoist priest suddenly stopped chanting. Everyone, this is a kind holy thing that the heavens have given to the people of the Tang Dynasty. It can be refined and tested, and it can also prolong one's life. If you are willing to help me dig this thing out of the soil, I will definitely buy it for 1 copper coin per kilogram. Wow! Everyone was in an uproar. Weren't these just cocoons? This thing could be refined into something that could prolong one's life? Not only that, but this thing was worth 1 copper coin per kilogram? Everyone was in an uproar again. Taoist priest, is this thing really that valuable? I don't know. If we really get our hands on it in the future, how do we exchange it? Is the Taoist priest joking? When the Taoist priest heard that, he stroked his beard slightly. I understand your concerns. I promise that as long as you have this thing, you can get it. Just take it to the local government and the government will buy it. Not only that, you can also use this thing to exchange for money or food that I have refined to strengthen the body. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard that. At this moment, the young Taoist priest behind him seemed to have been prepared. He took out plates of cooked cocoons from the altar and shouted, "This thing is a gift from the heavens. It's food that my master refined. Please eat, master." As he spoke, the Taoist priest grabbed a handful and started munching on it. The eyes of the people who were talking in the crowd flashed. They rushed forward and ate with the Taoist priest. They were enjoying themselves as they ate. Everyone looked at each other. Then the people swarmed over and started fighting. On the other side, the abbot of the Life Transformation Temple was also promoting Buddhism. At this moment, he also took out plates of cooked cocoons to help the people. However, this scene was seen by a few lazy men who were hiding not far away. Then, without anyone noticing, they quietly left. However, the moment they left, a voice rang out. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the person who was spreading the news in the crowd. He quietly followed them. Chapter 69. Chang and City Taiji Palace. After dealing with the drought and the plague of locusts, Li Shimin could finally let out a long sigh of relief. Early this morning, Li Shimin received news of victory from Long Yu Dao. At this moment he was playing Go with Empress Zhangsun. However, although the drought in Long Yu Dao had been resolved, Li Shimin still felt uneasy. Guanyin maid, do you think this kind of publicity will make the people of Long Yu Dao accept the cocoon? Li Shimin still could not let go of that matter. If he messed it up, then everything would be over. Guanyin maid covered her mouth and smiled. I think this is feasible. Li Shimin's eyes lit up. Why do you say that? You know that the people of Long Yu Dao will not accept this thing. Long Yu Dao is suffering from a drought now, and the harvest is not good. Although the imperial court has distributed relief food, it is a drop in the bucket. Most of the time these people are still starving. Moreover, who in this world does not want to live forever? At this moment, with the Taoist priest, the sorcerer, and his majesty's soldiers spreading the news, who can resist such temptation? This? Maybe I am overthinking it. With the Taoist priest and the sorcerer helping, this will definitely work. Although Li Shimin was still a little worried, under the guidance of Empress Zhangsun, this matter was slowly put aside. Empress Zhangsun continued, at this moment the people of Long Yu Dao are not even full. This is a gift from the heavens. If His Majesty can eat it, why can't they? I can guarantee that these people will definitely fall in love with the cocoon. Ah, isn't that right? This thing is really as good as what Brother Zhang Feng said. This kidney nourishment function is really better than the other tributes. Ever since I ate this thing, I feel like I have an inexhaustible amount of energy. Empress Zhangsun blushed and glared at Li Shimin. But in the next moment she looked at Li Shimin's face and said gently, "Second brother, haven't you noticed? Your white hair is much less and the wrinkles on your face have also lessened." Li Shimin was shocked. He hurriedly got up and leaned against the bronze mirror to carefully examine it. However, with a single glance he made an incredible discovery. The white hair on his head had really decreased by a lot. Moreover, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes and forehead had really disappeared by a lot. His entire person seemed to have become 10 years younger. This is really a gift from the heavens. Li Shimin excitedly cupped his fists towards the sky. He was so excited that he almost knelt down and prayed to the heavens. Man. Li Shimin excitedly waved his hand and said, "Pass on my decree. Forget it, pass on my decree. I want to hold a banquet and invite all the officials." Originally, he wanted to issue an edict to invite Zhang Feng. In this matter, Zhang Feng had unintentionally helped him a lot. Not only did he solve the drought and the plague of locusts, but he also solved his current physical condition. Li Shimin was so excited that he wanted to hug Zhang Feng and kowtow to him right now. However, when the words were at the tip of his tongue, he swallowed them back. In the end, he could only turn it into a banquet for all the officials. The time was really not right now. He really desperately wanted to go and tell Zhang Feng that he was Li Shimin right now. However, he also knew that there were a lot of interests behind this matter. If Zhang Feng really entered the palace, then, forget it. Forget it. Let's talk about it in the future. Li Shimin sighed. He could only give up. How could Zhang Sun not see that Li Shimin was not right? However, he could not say anything. He could only sigh and remain silent. After a while, in the banquet hall of Taiji Palace. At this moment, all the officials were sitting in the hall, discussing among themselves as they looked at the dazzling array of delicacies and the white marble plates that were covered. Lord Zhang, what exactly is on these plates? I'm not sure. However, I've ordered that these are the ingredients that His Majesty has specially prepared. I heard that they are the key to solving the drought in Longyu Road. Eh? My lords, look at Lord Wei Zheng, Lord Cheng and Lord Fong. Why are they staring at the covered plates and swallowing their saliva? This is not proper. That's true. Under the observation of an adult, everyone looked at Qing Yaojin and the others and started to discuss among themselves. Did you notice something? These people seem to be much younger? Huh? Nonsense. Don't even think about saying such ridiculous things in a place like this. The person who spoke earlier was anxious. Lord Fong was trembling when he walked and his face was frighteningly pale. Look at him now, look at his complexion, Hearing this, everyone could see that something was wrong from these people's faces. Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui's white beards had turned gray. There were even traces of black in their stubble. Even the wrinkles on their faces had smoothened out a lot. Not only that, their complexions were also rosy. Did they eat something very nutritious? I remember now. I've often heard that these lords' families would go out together to work in the fields. I wonder if this has something to do with it? Everyone was aghast and even more puzzled. Seeing Qing Yaojin staring at the covered plates and scratching his ears and cheeks anxiously, everyone was even more puzzled. What exactly was on these plates? Could this be the way to make them younger? Everyone couldn't help but stop talking. They stared at the plate as if they wanted to see what was under the red cloth. However, now that the emperor was here, no one dared to lift the red cloth to take a look. Just as everyone was scratching their ears and cheeks anxiously, a eunuch's announcement made everyone fall to their knees. His Majesty has arrived. Chapter 70. As his voice faded away, all the officials shouted in unison, "Long live the Emperor!" Rise. Li Shimin was very happy. He waved his sleeves and said with a ruddy face, "Do you know why I invited all of you to a banquet at this time?" An official of the Ministry of Personnel stood up and shouted, "Your Majesty is wise and mighty. You have solved the drought problem in Longyu Circuit. It seems that it is a blessing from the heavens. That's why the drought was solved in such a short time." That's right. An official of the eunuchs said excitedly, "Your Majesty, I have often seen the Ziwei Emperor star in the sky. It is a sign of great fortune." Hearing that, the crowd shouted in unison, "The heavens bless the Tang Dynasty. May the Emperor live long and prosper." Ah! Li Shimin laughed loudly, took the glazed cup from the eunuch's hand and said, "That's right. This is truly a blessing from the heavens to my great Tang. Come, Zhu Jun, raise your cup. Let's drink to the everlasting stability of the Tang Dynasty." As he spoke, Li Shimin raised his neck and drank. He continued, "I learned about this from an expert. I can't disclose who the expert is for the time being, because the expert has the demeanor of an expert. In the future, when the expert finishes his cultivation, I will personally invite him to a banquet. But today I want to announce two things." An expert? All the officials were stunned. Was there really such an extraordinary person in the world? Could such a thing be predicted? Some time ago there was a drought in Longyu Circuit. Although I did treat it, it was just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. It was useless. Most of the victims are still living in water and fire. However, just this morning, I received a secret report that the drought in Longyu Circuit has been solved, and the victims have now found food. Your Majesty, what is the food you are talking about? Also, we are slow-witted. We don't know what this extraordinary person has thought of. Some of the officials asked in confusion. Li Shimin waved his hand and said in a good mood, "Let me keep you in suspense. You will know later. Now I'll talk about another matter. Although it's easy to come into contact with the drought, you all know about the locust plague, right? It was also this morning that I used the experts' methods to come into contact with the threat of the locust plague." What? Could it be that God has really blessed the Tang Dynasty? Heavens! God bless the Tang Dynasty. That's great. Long Yu Dao is finally under control. Wait, let me finish. Li Shimin, who was in high spirits, didn't mind being interrupted by the officials. Instead, Li Shimin became even more excited and said, "For this matter, I didn't spend a single extra grain, nor did I spend more than 1,000 coins. However, the drought and the plague of locusts were solved just like that." Speaking of which, Li Shimin said mysteriously, "The main dish that I would like to invite you today is the thing that solved the drought in Longyu Dao and the plague of locusts." What? Your Majesty, the Longyu Circuit is a vast territory. How could they have resolved the drought and locust plague with such a small expenditure? How is that possible? Could it be that Your Majesty is implying that God has given us some kind of sacred object? Otherwise, how could the hundreds of thousands of people in Longyu Circuit? The officials were shocked. At this moment, they were even more eager to know what was on the plate. Li Shimin didn't waste any more time. He waved his hand and said, "That's right. This is indeed a sacred object that God has bestowed upon the Tang Dynasty. Not only can it prolong one's life but also, look at me. What's the difference between today and the past?" Hearing that, the officials finally raised their heads cautiously and looked at Li Shimin. However, in the next moment, everyone was shocked. Heavens! Your Majesty, this appearance? Could it be that I'm drunk? Why is Your Majesty's appearance when you were the Emperor of Qin? Me too. I also saw the Emperor of Qin. Could it be, heavens? Can this sacred object really restore one's youth? The officials were shocked again. However, Li Shimin only smiled mysteriously. How many years has it been? He wasn't as happy as he was today. How happy was he to be in existence that was looked up to by all the officials? At this moment, Wei Zheng and the others also coughed violently as if there was phlegm in their throats, trying to attract the attention of the crowd. Qing Yaojin was even more direct. He shouted directly, "Hey! You look at my old Cheng and see if there's any change?" In an instant, the officials were even more shocked. They looked at the emperor and then looked at Qing Yaojin and the others. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. What was going on? Could it be that their appearances were like this because they had eaten this sacred object? Everyone's eyes involuntarily gathered on the plate of mysterious food on the table again. Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "Today's banquet, begin." "We know. Aren't you all very curious as to what's under this red cloth? Then I'll tell you. This is the sacred object that can save Longjiudo, and it's also something that I have to eat every day. You've seen its effects. Not only can it strengthen the body and prolong one's life, but it also has the most important function." Li Shimin smiled mysteriously. "It nourishes the kidney." Chapter 71. Prolong life. Strengthen the body? Nourish the kidney? Everyone was a little confused. At this time they were more and more eager to know what this thing was. Is this holy thing like the elixirs recorded in the history books? Could it be that such a thing really appeared in Longyu Dao? Under Li Shimin's order, everyone was a little afraid to eat. They stared at the red cloth and hesitated. If this thing is so precious, why is it so careless? Isn't it a waste? Crunch. At this time, a crisp crunch sounded and everyone suddenly looked at Qing Yaojin. He saw that the red cloth on his plate had already been lifted, and many thumb-sized golden objects, like golden elixirs, disappeared under Qing Yaojin's gulping. The eyelids of all the ministers twitched. Is this a waste? This is a holy thing. But at this time Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui and even Wei Zheng were like Qing Yaojin. They grabbed a handful of these things with one hand and held a jar of wine with the other hand. Weren't they satisfied? All the ministers looked at each other. Then some people followed suit and ate like them. There were even some people who secretly hid some in their clothes, preparing to bring it back home for their families to eat. At this time. But they didn't notice that all the maids and eunuchs in the hall suddenly turned pale the moment they started eating. Everyone clenched their teeth tightly. Li Shimin looked at everyone and saw that after everyone tasted a mouthful, they suddenly began to eat. He laughed and said, "Dear ministers, don't be so anxious. There are still many sacred objects. Today the Tang Dynasty has a rare happy occasion. I have decided that today's food will be enough. When everyone goes home, go to the imperial kitchen and get a meal box and take it back." When everyone heard that there was enough food and they could take it back to their families, they couldn't help but look happy. Then they knelt down and sang in unison, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Li Shimin was so happy. "Eat, as long as you like it." If you like it, you will be addicted to it even if you know what it is. And in this way, when Zhang Feng comes to the court, who would dare to say a word? Looking at the greasy mouths of the people, Li Shimin rubbed his hands and waved his hand and said, "Come. Everyone present today, including the maids and eunuchs, will be rewarded." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Although everyone knew that these things were eggs who didn't have a family, who didn't want face. Even in Chang'an City, this kind of holy object had been said to be magical. Although no one knew what this thing was, when they saw the red faces of the emperor and a minister, and the emperor who was obviously younger, they still hoped to eat a little, even if their hearts were in turmoil. What's more, now the emperor was going to reward them personally. This was a holy object bestowed by the emperor. If they brought it back home, it would be a great thing to bring glory to their family. While the palace was bustling with noise and excitement, Zhang Feng was sitting on the steps in front of the shop, eating snacks and staring blankly at the people coming and going in Chang'an City. Damn Lao Li, ever since he took away the secret recipe of cooking eggs from me, I can't even see his shadow. However, there was already a holy object in the market. The emperor got an elixir at night. If he ate it, he would be able to live forever, nourish his kidneys, rejuvenate his youth, and even strengthen his body. It was so similar to his fried locust eggs. Could it be that this damn Lao Li got into trouble again? Was the secret recipe leaked? Or did Lao Li or Old Wei give this thing to the emperor? If that's the case, Zhang Feng's eyes flashed with excitement. Great! My thing has finally been passed to the palace. This means that my chances of meeting Li Shimin have increased by more than just a little. Ta-ta-ta. Get out of the way, unrelated people, get out of the way. At this moment, the chaotic sound of horse hooves and shouts attracted Zhang Feng's attention. From where he was, he could see that at the intersection of the East Market and Vermilion Bird Avenue, there was a group of Imperial Guards standing guard. Among them there was a Tubo flag fluttering in the wind. Below this flag there was a group of Tujue soldiers, holding the diplomatic mission's flag high, appearing proudly in front of everyone's eyes. When Zhang Feng saw the Tubo, he instantly understood everything. This diplomatic mission is really here. This time there's a good show to watch. I just don't know if that damned Old Li has spread the news about what I've done. If the emperor knows that this thing came from me, then... Damn Lao Li, you haven't been here for almost 10 days. I wonder if you have completed the task I assigned to you. This is a rare chance to become famous. It's also a rare chance to get close to the emperor. Don't mess this up. Chapter 72. In the Imperial Palace. All the officials were still drinking to celebrate the end of the Longyu Circuit's drought and the locust plague. However, at this moment, Wei Shuyu sneaked into the main hall and stood in front of Wei Zheng. Father. What are you doing here if you're not on duty? Do you want to be punished? Leave now and pretend that I didn't see you. No, father, something happened. I just received news that the Tujue's envoy has arrived. What? Wei Zheng exclaimed. Everyone was shocked. Wei Zheng did not have time to explain. He asked hurriedly, when did this happen? Where is the Tubo envoy? Why didn't you report this earlier? Wei Zheng didn't try to suppress his voice so everyone in the hall could hear him. What? The Tubo envoy is here. Wei Shuyu, why didn't you report this to the emperor earlier? How dare you, Wei Shuyu? You're lying to the emperor. Enough. Li Shimin waved his hand casually. All of you know what kind of person Shuyu is. He probably doesn't want to spoil your mood. Shuyu, tell me, when did the Tubo envoy arrive? Where did he go? Why did you wait until now to report this? Li Shimin's heart. It was as if he had smeared honey on it. He really came. Brother Zhang Feng was a god. How could he guess that? Moreover, he was sure that the Tubo envoy must have known about the Longyu Circuit. If that's the case, he was here to deliver money to the Tang Dynasty. How could he not be happy? However, he did not dare to be too obvious in front of all the officials. Li Shimin cleared his throat and asked seriously, Shuyu, do you know how many Tubo envoys are here and where are they? Wei Shuyu originally wanted to tell her father secretly, and then her father would tell the emperor. This way it wouldn't cause too much of a shock, but now everyone knew. He could only say respectfully, Your Majesty, 11 people from Tubo have arrived in Chang'an City. What? Nonsense. Why hadn't he received any news before? Is the news of the Tang Dynasty so blocked? Wei Shuyu, hurry up and tell us the truth. All the ministers were enraged. This person had already arrived at his doorstep, so why was there no news at all before this? Wouldn't we be making a joke out of ourselves in front of the Tubo people? If it weren't for the emperor's banquet today, wouldn't the Tang dynasty be ridiculed by a Tubo? Reporting to your majesty. I heard that this group of Tubo envoys were wearing the clothes of our Tang dynasty, and they are suspected to have come from Longyu Circuit. I just learned this from a Longyu Circuit soldier who was following this group of Tubo envoys. They only changed into Tubo clothes when they were about to enter Chang and city, so they didn't alert anyone. What? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you spy on Longyu Circuit? Your Majesty, please issue an edict to arrest this group of Tubo envoys. At this time, except for Li Shimin, Wei Zheng and the others who were in shock, all the civil and military officials in the hall were furious. They didn't know when this group of envoys had infiltrated the Tang dynasty, and they could disguise themselves all the way from Longyu Circuit to Chang'an City. What were they thinking? They wanted to slap the face of the Tang dynasty. Moreover, the matter of Longyu Circuit couldn't be covered up anymore. Your Majesty, we beg your Majesty to arrest this group of Tubo envoys immediately, or the disaster of our Tang dynasty will be completely exposed. All the civil and military officials knelt in unison and begged for the order. But at this time, Li Shimin also came to his senses. Sure enough, it's just as the shopkeeper expected. This group of Tubo people can't sit still. And now I finally understand why Zhang Feng ordered people to spread the news at that time and pay attention to suspicious people. It turns out that he has foreseen all of this. Li Shimin waved his hand. This can't be done. Wei Zheng hurried forward and looked at the officials with a serious face. This matter concerns the fate of our Tang dynasty, and all of this is under His Majesty's control. Do you think His Majesty has no plans? Qing Yaojin couldn't hold it in anymore. He jumped up and said, "That's right. Wei Zheng is right. In fact, His Majesty has already made arrangements for this matter. He was waiting for the Tubo envoys. They are here to deliver money to our Tang dynasty." What? Everyone couldn't help but exclaim. Deliver money? What's going on? Everyone was dumbfounded. Li Shimin smiled and stood up. He shook his cloak and said, "This is the third good news I want to announce. Since the Tubo envoys have arrived, then prepare a carriage for the Tubo envoys in the political announcement hall." Yes, the emperor is wise. Long live the emperor. As the crowd cheered, Li Shimin's personal eunuch screamed, "Prepare a carriage for the political announcement hall. All the officials will follow." And at this time, the group of arrogant Tubo envoys had already appeared at the gate of the Vermilion Bird Gate. Looking at the majestic palace, the leading envoy's eyes were shining with a fiery light. Damn Tangs! This imperial capital is like a paradise. Sooner or later it will belong to my Tubo. As he spoke, the gate in front of the envoy slowly opened. The envoy waved his hand and said, "Everyone must be 120% alert when entering the palace to meet His Majesty. Remember our mission." Yes. Chapter 73. Walking on Vermilion Bird Avenue. Suo Lang's mood was extremely complicated. In fact, he had left Tubo a long time ago. When the group of Tubo envoys returned to Tubo, he had brought the letter of credence with him. It had been half a month since then. In this half a month, he had disguised himself as a Han Chinese and investigated the problem of the drought in Longyu Road. At first, he did not think that the Tang dynasty could really solve the drought in such a short time. However, in the past few days, the Tang dynasty had not only solved the drought in Longyu Road, but at least it had stopped the spread of the drought. This was so shocking to the people in Tubo, especially when they saw that thing that looked like a tambourine could transport water from so far away. Why did they not think of this? They had secretly researched this thing and even secretly created it. However, this seemingly simple thing was actually impossible for them to create. Furthermore, the interior of this thing wasn't just hollow. Instead, there were some strange things that seemed to be able to make the water flow continuously within it. At the outlet and inlet of the water, they only needed to shake a handle, and water would flow out continuously. Although they had secretly dismantled 2 water wheels, they still could not master this magical thing. They couldn't help but decide to stay and observe for a while longer. A few days ago they even witnessed a miracle. They didn't know where the rumors came from, but a holy object descended from the heavens. Not only could it alleviate the drought, it actually grew golden and fragrant delicacies from the soil. What was the reason? Why was there only soil, grass, and disgusting insects in their soil? Could it be that the Tang dynasty really had the help of gods? With such doubts, they stayed in Longyu Road for a few more days. During this period of time, they actually watched as those people actually dug up things in the ground and then took them to the officials' robes to exchange for a large number of these sacred items. This was strange. This was clearly an ordinary insect egg. Just what was the great Tang up to? How could they make such delicious food? He had eaten this thing before. It was cooked with flour, fragrant and refreshing. However, the flour seemed to be mixed with something. There was minced meat in it. And the most amazing thing was that this thing could really strengthen one's body. Not only that, if they ate too much of this thing, even their originally dry faces would become glossy. This time, Solon's purpose was finally clear. If the Tang emperors could really reward Tubo with this thing, then Tubo would really be saved. And that water wheel. This time they must ask for something made by this magical thing. At this moment, after Tubo's envoy stepped into the Red Phoenix Gate, teams of imperial guards in neat armor and golden guards in golden armor stood straight on both sides of the road leading to the political announcement hall. Looking at all this, Solons couldn't help but feel a little nervous. This time, although they didn't do it properly and didn't go through the proper channels, since the Tang emperors already knew and agreed to meet them, it meant that the Tang emperors didn't seem to care. After entering the Red Phoenix sect, everyone's horses and accompanying weapons were all confiscated. And Solons didn't have any complaints about this. The point was that he didn't dare to. If it were before, he might have argued. But after seeing what happened to Longjiudo and the purpose of this trip, he really admitted defeat. His Majesty has decreed that the envoy of Tubo, Solons, is to have an audience with the emperor. After Sun Solons waited for about a quarter of an hour outside the political announcement hall, the eunuchs passed down the decree one by one. Solons held the letter of credence of Tubo high, bowed, and hurried into the political announcement hall. After entering the political announcement hall, Solons looked out of the corner of his eye and saw that the officials of the Tang dynasty in the hall at this time looked solemn and didn't even look at the crowd. This was completely different from what the envoys who had visited the great Tang royal palace had said. Before coming, he deliberately asked a lot of people. Many people said that in the palace of the Tang dynasty, everyone was like a country bumpkin, and the discipline was disorganized. But now he understood. What the hell was disorganized? Since the Tang dynasty entered Chang and city, if the disdain they showed was fake, who were they pretending for? If the people of the Tang dynasty had a premonition, he wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Who had the ability to guess that they would come today? And from the natural arrogance of the common people and soldiers to the solemnity of the officials now, it was all fake. Then, was everyone in the Tang dynasty the best posers? He didn't dare to think about it. And he didn't dare to look up at the emperor of the Tang dynasty directly above. Stop. When he walked forward again for a while, he heard a dignified and cold voice faintly. The next moment, Solons and the others trembled and hurriedly kowtowed and said, Tubo envoy Solons brings the letter of credence of the Tubo king to greet his majesty the Tang emperors. Chapter 74. Solons was very worried and scared. It was too quiet. The atmosphere was so oppressive that he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. At this moment, he lowered his gaze and looked at the civil and military officials on his left and right. The civil officials proudly looked forward and did not even look at him. As for the military officials, they were filled with killing intent. They were like fierce tigers waiting for an opportunity to strike. It was too scary. Was this the root of the Tang dynasty's prosperity? Solons couldn't help but tremble all over. The people kneeling on the ground behind him began to tremble. At this moment, a faint smile appeared on Li Shimon's face as he waved his hand. Rise, rise. Until now, Tubo and the others breathed a deep sigh of relief. They slowly got up. Solons didn't dare to delay and hurriedly said, Your Majesty, I came here on the order of my king to bring the most sincere blessings to your Majesty, the Tang emperors. While speaking, Solons covered his heart with his right hand and bowed deeply. May your Majesty live a long and peaceful life. Li Shimon smiled. Thank you for your concern, your Majesty, and send the best blessings to me. Thank you, your Majesty. Although Solons and the others were saying official words at this time, Li Shimon was very happy. After learning that these people had entered Chang'an city, Li Shimon and the others immediately gave 3 orders in a row, asking everyone to show him their best spirit. To put it bluntly, Li Shimon learned this from Zhang Feng. Acting tough. As long as he acted tough well, then he could guarantee that things would be done well. Obviously, the effect was very good now. Although no one said a word, Li Shimin felt extremely comfortable when he saw the trembling bodies of the people kneeling in front of him. It was truly incomparably comfortable. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that it was forbidden to do so, many of the officials would have burst out laughing. After Li Shimin finished speaking, Solons raised the letter of credence high in his arms and handed it to the eunuch beside Li Shimin. Then he took out another gift list and read it aloud. Reporting to your majesty, this is the letter of credence written by my king himself. I hope that your majesty will take a look at it. This time, his majesty specially instructed me to bring a gift from his majesty. While speaking, Sua Lang continued, 330 cows, 3,000 lambs, 300 gems and 500 pieces of leather. It signifies that I, Tubo, and the Tang dynasty are destined to meet. While speaking, Solons bowed and handed the gift list to a young eunuch. Li Shimin glanced at the letter of credence. He knew what was written on it without reading it carefully. He asked faintly, Your Majesty said in the letter that you want to establish a friendly relationship with the Tang dynasty and don't want to fight. This is also what I want to see. The Tang dynasty is a country of friendship. If your majesty is willing, I'm willing to establish diplomatic relations with you. We can exchange what we need. Thank you, your majesty. Solons's eyes lit up and he bowed again. Then, Sua Lang bitterly said, replying to his majesty of the great Tang, his majesty originally wanted to personally pay a visit and appreciate the customs of the great Tang. However, due to the heavy state affairs and the constant overwork, he fell ill. Li Shimin's eyes flashed and he looked at Wei Zheng. Sure enough. Why is that? Behind Sua Lang, there was a sudden sound of sobbing. Your Majesty, we're here to ask for help from the Tang dynasty. Tubo has encountered a drought that's hard to come by in 100 years, so... What? Drought? How could this be? I remember that Tubo used to be very rich. What's going on? No? I heard from the merchants of the Tang dynasty that 3 months ago, Tubo unilaterally banned all people of the Tang dynasty from entering. What? Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and the others pretended to be surprised. Even the imperial court began to discuss it at this time. The sudden discussion caused Sua Lang's heart to clench. Even at this time, Li Shimin pretended to be surprised and said, Oh? Why is that? Minister of Agriculture, tell me what's going on. When Du Ruhui heard this, he hurriedly said, Your Majesty. I've heard about it but I haven't been able to get in touch with Tubo, so I don't know about it until now. When Solons heard this, his eyelids twitched violently and he hurriedly said, Your Majesty. I should have told you about this earlier. But at that time Tubo was in a serious drought, and the people were in a panic. So, in order not to disturb the merchants of the Tang dynasty, Tubo's minister decided to temporarily block the entrance. But this was not my king's idea. As he spoke, Solons knelt again and said, A few days ago after my king learned about it, he hurriedly ordered me to bring gifts as an apology. So, thank your king for me. I've seen your sincerity and I like it very much. Someone come. Set up a banquet to entertain the ambassadors. As he spoke, Li Shimin pretended to leave. He wanted to see how long these people could endure. But at this time, Solons was anxious. Your Majesty, please save Tubo. Chapter 75. Solons panicked. So did all the other Tubo envoys. If Li Shimin were to leave, the purpose of their visit would be over. Your Majesty. To tell the truth, we truly have come this time to seek help from the great Tang. The drought in Tibet has already lasted for half a year, and it is still continuing. Not only has it not been alleviated in the slightest, it is even getting worse. Even the grass, roots and tree bark have been eaten up by the starving people. Your Majesty is merciful. Please save us. We, Your Excellency. Wei Zheng took a step forward and looked at Solons with a serious face. I heard that you left Tubo 15 days ago. I want to know how you got here in the past half a month? I don't think it takes half a month to travel from Chang and City to Tubo, right? You should know that the Longyu circuit of the Tang dynasty is also suffering from the threat of the drought. We are also very busy with this matter. The Tang dynasty is unable to help us for the time being. Wei Zheng was so pretentious, so awesome. Li Shimin gave Wei Zheng a thumbs up in his heart. Actually, none of them were fools. How could they not know what these envoys had done in Longyu circuit? They came here to ask for help just because they were poor? They were thinking too much. Did the things of the Tang dynasty come from the wind? That's enough. Li Shimin waved his hand slightly. This is a very important matter. Moreover, the Tang dynasty is still unable to prevent the drought. If we inform our allies of this method hastily and something goes wrong, won't Tubo be harmed? Therefore, I will write a letter to you and bring it back to Tubo. I will help you with this matter. However, the prerequisite is that the drought in Longyu Circuit is truly resolved. Would they be able to solve the drought in Tubo after they had truly solved it? King Hell, everyone was dead. Save my ass. Solons was anxious. He knelt on the ground and begged, Your Majesty, this humble subject has indeed left Tubo half a month ago. However, during this period of time, we have been in Longyu Dao and witnessed everything in Longyu Dao. If this method doesn't work, how can there be a better one? If we wait until the drought of the Tang dynasty is over, then our Tubo will be destroyed. Your Majesty, please save me, Tubo. If you are still angry, if you promise to save me, Tubo, I am willing to give you my life as an explanation. Envoy, you're being too serious. Li Shimin waved his hand. Since you know, then I won't hide it anymore. I can only have these things now, and I don't have any more for the time being. Moreover, you also know that those sacred objects are bestowed by the heavens. Therefore, I need the permission of the heavens before I can bestow them to you. You want a freeload? Not a chance. Do you think you can take away my things so easily? Do you think the people of the Tang dynasty are stupid? Enough. We'll talk about this later. Chapter 76. After the court. Everyone left in a hurry. However, Wei Zheng and the others ended up gathering in the Taiji Palace after making a huge detour. Ah, awesome. This old man has never felt so good before. Isn't that so? Just like that, the arrogance of the Tubo envoys was completely crushed. This brother Zhang Feng is amazing. Especially when old Wei asked that domineering question. Old Qing almost held my axe and roared angrily. Enough. Don't be so smug. This matter has been dealt with for the time being, but it's not over yet. It will be more difficult next time. Li Shimin interrupted everyone. He continued, What do you think of this matter? Now all of you know about Tubo's situation. Moreover, after observing everyone's words and actions today, as well as the situation in the secret report and the little shopkeeper's speculation, we realized that the drought in Tubo doesn't seem to be as easy as we thought. We suspect that their drought has already reached an uncontrollable stage. Hearing that, everyone put away the smiles on their faces and fell into deep thought. Wei Jing thought for a while and said with a fist salute, Your Majesty, I think we should help. Didn't the shopkeeper say so? We can sell this to them at a high price. In this way we... Sell? Sell my ass. Hearing that, Qing Yaojin slapped the armchair and said, Your Majesty, I've thought about it. If you can give me 300,000 soldiers, I promise to conquer Tubo in a month. Nonsense. Du Ruhui's face was gloomy. He pointed at Qing Yaojin's nose and shouted, You black charcoal man, you only know how to fight and kill. The situation in Tubo is so bad now. They don't even know about the plague of locusts. Tell me, if you conquer them now, won't you cause more trouble for the Tang dynasty? It's easy for you to conquer them, but we have to bear all the disasters by ourselves. I don't think this method is appropriate. Why is it inappropriate? Old Du, what do you think? We have the young shopkeeper with us now. As long as we take down Tubo, we can slowly use this way. Enough. Old Black, sit down. Li Shimin waved his hand. I have also thought about this matter, but this is the most dangerous, so I don't agree. Even if we want to fight, we have to wait for the disaster to end. Wouldn't it be better for us to receive a complete Tubo? Why do I have to pick up trouble? Qing Yaojin shrank his neck and wanted to say something, but after Wei Jing glared at him, he had to swallow his words. Li Shimin said again, Let's continue our discussion. Things must be given, but what do they have to give you? And what is it that we urgently need? Zhang Sun Wuji narrowed his eyes and said, Your Majesty, do you still remember that the shopkeeper said that Tubo also had a locust plague? Li Shimin's eyes lit up. Yeah. And from their conversation today, it seems that they didn't notice the locust plague? Yes. If that's the case, the locust plague. Li Shimin stroked his chin and walked a few rounds in Taiji Palace. A bright light suddenly flashed in his eyes. Wei Jing, tell me about the situation in Tubo from the Secretarial Bureau. Wei Jing seemed to have realized something. He hurriedly said, Your Majesty, according to the information compiled by the Secretarial Bureau, most of Tubo's wealth and food industry are concentrated in the hands of a few rich people. And now, although most of the ordinary people are starving and even risking their lives to climb the mountains and come to the Tang Dynasty to find food, I think that we really don't need to help Tubo for the time being. Why? Everyone looked at Wei Zheng in confusion. Wei Zheng's eyes flashed fiercely. Their nobles are not hungry yet. Their people are not rioting yet. This time, they must have sent people here because the higher-ups of Tubo are also worried about this problem. If we make a fuss about this and spread the news about Long Yu Dao, I believe that in less than half a month Tubo will definitely kneel and beg the Tang Dynasty. Good. Wei Zheng. So you're this kind of person? You're too mean. But I like it. You're really cold on the inside. Everyone heard that and could not help but have goosebumps. At that moment they even made a mental note to themselves. From now on they must never offend Old Man Wei. This guy is going to trick you to death. Now, I just want to know how to solve the problem of Tubo's envoys. We have to come up with a plan for this matter, and what do we need them to give us in exchange? We don't lack land now and they can't wait to give us land. We don't want it. Then what's left? Li Shimin asked 3 questions in a row. However, everyone looked thoughtful but no one could come up with a plan. Then Li Shimin said in a serious tone, "In that case I think it's time to ask the shopkeeper. This thing originally belonged to him." Everyone looked at each other. Everyone's eyes lit up. That's right. How could he have forgotten about that guy for something like this? Even though I managed to get the news out of Long Yu Dao and even made a fortune out of it, I still did as you said and sent people to spread the news of the matter. Guess what? Zhang Feng took a sip of wine and asked, "What?" The diplomatic mission from Tubo hid in Long Yu Road for 10 days just to study the water wheel. Study the water wheel? Zhang Feng laughed. I dare to believe that even if Lu Ban was alive he wouldn't be able to make that thing. Although it looks simple, you should know that its internal structure is extremely complicated. You want to disassemble it for research? Zhang Feng laughed. What if it's my patent, Zhang Feng? That's not something that others can covet. Li Shimin asked hurriedly, why? It will self-destruct. So, you're worried about this? This bunch of misers? Zhang Feng couldn't help but make a mental note in his heart. No. Li Shimin said hurriedly, that's one thing. I'm afraid that they will tell Tubo about this. After all, they stayed in Long Yu Road for 10 days. You don't have to worry about that. Zhang Feng said confidently. What? Because if they really did figure it out, do you think they would come and beg His Majesty for help? Will they come to see His Majesty? Do you think they are as stupid as you? Li Shimin didn't care. He asked hurriedly, then why is that? If they really tell Tubo, then they won't. Zhang Feng stood up, chewing on the mutton skewer and said, His Majesty is not stupid. How could he not set up a defense at Tubo's border? Even if this thing is told, it will be fine. It will only increase the value of this thing by another level. Zhang Feng saw it clearly, and from the perspective of a bystander. At this time, Li Shimin, except for Qing Yaojin, everyone nodded thoughtfully. Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. He threw away the mutton skewer in his hand and patted Li Shimin's shoulder excitedly, saying, Lao Li, you're going to be famous. Li Shimin was dumbfounded. Famous for what? Why are you always so stupid at crucial moments? You're going to be rich this time. His Majesty is going to summon us.